I had to change that up because, as usual, I screwed it up. So I had to change it up. So it's all right. It's episode 3. So we'll deal with it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to keep repeating, please like it because people forget, and please subscribe too. I'll be definitely repeating that. So thank you very much for joining us. My co-host over to my right, Miss Witchy Perfect, Steph, and our guest tonight is
Matt Collins.
Matt Collins. Sorry, I'm terrible with names, and even though your name is right there, but thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. I mean, I'm like, I'm awful with names. It's absolutely awful. I mean, it's like if I just met you, it's like forget it. But I appreciate you coming on anyways. I mean, you. So, all right, we're live everywhere. What's up, Greg? Thank you for joining us. Give us a like. Greatly appreciate it. And today we're going to be discussing. I'm buzzing.
Yeah, you're buzzing a little bit. You want to.
Uh,
Thank you, Mastermind and Holy Beard. Like Matt has a holy beard.
I don't know what
I'm
it is.
going to call you guys Merlin from now on.
Works for
Well,
me.
how is it now? I mean, is it? It could
Oh, that's
be.
much better. Yeah.
Okay, must have been. It's too close to my face. Oh, too close to my headphones. It was
Could
too close
be.
to my headphones because my you can hear the audio here, so it was too close. And this microphone's pretty sensitive, so it was catching my headphones. Thank you for letting me know because I didn't know it seemed fine on my end. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about unfortunate few deaths in wrestling this week. So we'll be discussing that. Then I think I don't know what else we'll talk about a little bit of what went on this week in wrestling, and then we'll go from there. Whatever else happens to pop up, we'll just talk about that. I never had plans for my show. It's just that okay, we have an outline. Talk about two things on
That's
the
what.
title,
Yeah.
and then we
When
go from
Kit
there.
was like, well, do you do like research and stuff and have notes and stuff for your show? I'm like, no, the notes are up here, Kit. There's no. I have a paper in front of me with cue cards. I mean, what do you want me to do? Have cue cards over here on the side of my computer? No,
Yeah, I can't do that.
I just
Like,
talk and I just talk about a certain topic, and usually I go off on tangents, and then I have to come back to what I was discussing. So
yeah, I do that too. So that's why I
who
don't
sits there with
have.
cards and stuff and
I
notes?
mean, there's some like Kid. I'm sure plans out his shows because
Oh
he goes
yeah,
like 2.5 hours, maybe longer.
yeah.
So I did Angel in the Afternoon last night, and I don't. I just went off, on tangents, and I went back and forth. I added like 10 different things to talk about, even though I only plan to do two or three. So yeah, so let's get to it. Apparently, Oli Anderson did pass away today. I think I may have drank alcohol, even though I didn't. But the way
Believe,
I'm
believe, believe.
talking
That's
this
all, folks.
morning, uh-huh. Uh,
Yeah.
he did pass away. What, Monday or no Monday? Because I remember they talked about it on Raw. So
Okay. And I mean, Matt, you are a little older than us. Angel and I are both 38 or 37. You're 41. Did you know anything about Ole Anderson?
A little bit. I watched a few matches this morning.
Okay. So go ahead and take it away. What have you
Well,
seen? What have you learned?
he does a lot of interesting stuff on YouTube talking about his time with wrestlers, and he
Hmm.
definitely is very open-minded and open-mouthed about it. So that was interesting, talking about Hogan and Flair and the Four Horsemen.
Right. As I was told, he's an acquired taste.
yes, he is.
Yeah, he does not like Ric Flair. I know that because I saw a shoot on him, and he's just like, "Flair's an asshole." I was like, "Okay."
And he owes me
He
a lot of
doesn't beat
money that he'll
around the
never pay
bush.
me.
He's very direct. He's very blunt.
Oh yeah, everybody's told stories about him. Eric Bischoff. I mean, when he fired him in WCW, I mean, it was like he basically cussed him out before Bischoff fired him over the phone because, of course, Bischoff didn't was too scared to fire him in person.
Flair or
Or
Ole?
No, Oli. When Bischoff
Oh,
fired
okay.
Oli from WCW.
I thought you were gonna talk about Flair. I'm like, I don't remember Flair getting fired.
No. I'm talking about when Bischoff fired Ole Anderson. I think it was 92 or
Oh,
93.
wow.
That was his last time in wrestling, basically. I
Well,
don't think he had another job again.
That's all I really know of Ole Anderson. I have seen some of the Four Horsemen stuff, but I didn't really like the Four Horsemen even when Kurt was in it. So, and I was so glad when Kurt destroyed it. I was like, yes. But something about them being the originals, like him, J.J. Dillon, Ric Flair, and oh my goodness, who else? There's someone else, but
uh,
I'm
the
it's
original
escaping
Four
me.
Horsemen.
There was a original Four Horsemen, so it was
Yeah, it
Ole,
was
J.J.
Ole,
Dillon, Ric
J.J.
Flair.
Dillon, and
There's someone else, but I can't think of it. Someone in the
huh,
chat might know.
um, it might have been what? No, because
Arn
it was
Anderson, maybe
yeah, it was either Arn Anderson or
someone else. Was Sting ever in the Four Horsemen?
um briefly in the
Really
early
briefly?
'90s. Yeah, he did
Like
join.
Jeff Jarrett was in briefly?
Yeah, he did join, and then all of a sudden it was they turned on him, and that's when Flair and them turned heel. I think it was early '90s. Ric Flair, Ole, Arn Anderson. Ric Flair, Ole, Arn Anderson, Tully. Okay, you were
Oh,
right. It was
Tully
Arn.
Blanchard. Okay, so it wasn't J.J. Dillon, but he
Yeah,
was the
JJ.
manager.
Yeah, JJ was their manager.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was their manager. So it was Tully, Ole,
Ric
Arn,
Flair and
and
Arn
Ric
Anderson.
Flair.
hmm
Yeah,
When Tully is their manager.
yeah.
That's what it was. I mean, so we got the names right, just that we were a little confused on what roles they played.
Well, I knew Arn Anderson was in there somewhere, but I forgot about Tully because I wasn't much for Tully. I have to be honest. Wasn't much for him. Even when he was in the Brainbusters, I just wasn't
Uh-huh.
I wasn't into him. Or Arn Anderson. That whole my spot thing that they did with Kurt, where
Yeah.
Kurt was supposed to take Arn Anderson's spot. Yeah, sorry. If you and we're gonna do a watch along on my show, but if you watch Kurt's face, his facial features didn't match up with his response. It would be a privilege, is what he ends up saying, and it's just
It's-
like your face didn't match your response. So that whole spot thing, and then the NWO ended up making fun of it anyway, which was
oh,
freaking hilarious.
well, yeah. I mean, and apparently, the Four Horsemen weren't happy about that.
Yeah, Ric Flair would say later that it was bad taste, and I went, "Shut up, Flair." It was good for its time. It was before. I mean, they did it twice in the WWE. Okay, they did it with the Nation of Domination. DX dressed up as the Nation of
hmm
Domination. Everyone remembers the Croc. That was
Yeah.
hilarious. Okay. The second time they did it with Vince McMahon, for heaven's sake. Vince was probably in the back laughing it up. He probably thought it was hilarious.
Well,
But
yeah. I
don't
mean,
ever apologize for that spot or the parody of the Four Horsemen with the NWO. That was all I
stupid.
will say is that Buff Bagwell made a horrible Kurt Hennig.
Oh yeah, I can't believe
Didn't even
he
look
was
like
there.
him. I was just like, no. But it was supposed to be funny. It was supposed to be a parody, and
Yeah.
Flair got all butthurt because of it. Well, you don't see Vince McMahon getting all butthurt about it, and they did it to him
Oh, they did him worse. I mean,
twice.
yeah, they did him worse than the four horsemen. Yeah. So
Yeah, they had two midgets it was Jesse James, and he had two midgets
yeah.
at his butt because that was supposed to be
Oh no,
Jared
that's better.
Briscoe,
Hold
and it
on.
was supposed to be Jared
Sorry, just
Briscoe
give me a minute.
and Pat Patterson.
Uh, yeah. Why is this not coming up the way I want it? Oh, here we go. Well, I saw the video when Oli said this, but unfortunately I couldn't find it. So when Vince McMahon brought Georgia Championship Wrestling time slot on WTBS, he asked Ole to work for WWE. Ole said, go fuck yourself. A week later, Vince approached Ole with, again, this time with Linda, and asked again. Ole replied, go fuck yourself and fuck her too. There's
And
actually video of this. I
yes,
couldn't find it before the show. That's why I don't have it. But there's actually video of Ole saying that, which is hilarious. And like he wouldn't work for McMahon or Vince Jr. no matter what he did.
yeah. And he was basically the only one who had the cojones to actually say, you know what, Vince? go fuck yourself.
Uh-huh.
And then when Vince came and said, please give me your territories, it was Ole that said, nope, go fuck yourself. The rest of them were kind of like, no, thanks, Vince. That's okay.
Yep.
So what did Vince do? Vince didn't just go, oh, shucks. Guess I'll have to just, stay in my own territory. No, he actually bought off the talent.
Yeah. And he also bought out Georgia Championship Wrestling. That whole
Hmm.
Black Saturday thing where
I mean,
Ole was
eventually,
stiffing.
yeah.
Yeah, Ole was stiffing his partners, which were the
Hmm.
Briscoes and somebody else. I forget his name right now, but and Gerald Briscoe was like, let's sell our shares to Vince. Ole's not paying us anyways, so it's like let's
Hmm.
sell our shares to Vince, and all of a sudden Vince owned the company essentially.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's when the next part is Ted Turner basically Vince promising Ted Turner original content, and of course he gave him a shitty highlight show which nobody wanted to see,
Hmm.
especially in the South because they hated WWF wrestling.
Yeah, they thought it was cartoonish,
Hmm.
where theirs was more, it was real wrestling, or it seemed real. It was still
Yeah.
staged, but it seemed real, and they were doing all kinds of like what we would call indie shows now. That's what they were
Hmm.
doing. Like Portland, I would say, well, I will take it right from the one surviving at the time, Bushwhacker. Um, I think it was Butch. He was on the Tales of the Territories, and he was saying how, in Portland, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted and you got away with it. So
Hmm.
that's what I would say about Portland. And a lot of those territories um, were like that. I know the AWA was kind of the same way, but they had matches you wanted to see. Like you wanted to see Kurt versus Nick Bockwinkel versus Ray Stevens. You wanted to see, Hogan when he was in it.
Yeah.
You wanted to see, well, and that's the thing. I think the AWA, when Hogan screwed them, I think that was their downfall. Even though Kurt and them tried to,
Yeah.
help it along, their major draw was Hogan.
Yeah. I mean, Hogan was the big draw, and then I don't know how true this is, but Vern wouldn't put the belt on him, and he wanted to be the champion, and then Vince offered him the belt, and of course he left, for
Right. Well,
WWF, and then
and
had that
here's
4 year run.
right, and here's the sad part. Vern didn't tell him because he kept things close to the vest because he didn't wanted it to get leaked out, because if
Yeah.
he was afraid that if he told someone that eventually it would get leaked to the press, and he just wanted to kind of keep it close to the vest. And here's the kicker. He was actually going to give Hogan the belt, but he didn't tell anybody. He didn't tell Hogan either. So Hogan went and had his meeting with Vince, and then
Hmm.
they got they usually would get Andre the Giant at certain times. So at
Yeah.
certain times they would get Andre the Giant, and they had Andre the Giant versus Hogan, and eventually oops. I mean, Greg tells the story. I was just saying this on my own show, in one of the newest episodes that I recorded, that Greg Gagne and Vern got a telegram. Now, I think it was Eddie Gilbert and him would always rib each other. So he thought it was a big
Yeah.
rib. But it was a telegram from Florida where Hogan was living at the time, and it said, "I'm not coming
I'm
back."
not coming back.
And Vern ripped it
Unsigned.
up and threw it in the trash, thinking it
A
was a
rib
rib.
from Eddie Gilbert.
And
Yeah. Hmm.
and then
Because
when Christmas
go,
came around,
go ahead.
Hogan was they sold out St. Paul and Minneapolis. They had all that sold out because of Andre the Giant and Hogan,
Hmm.
and Hogan never showed up.
Apparently, that telegram was unsigned.
It was unsigned, right? That's
Yeah,
why
Jim
they thought it
Cornette
was
tells
from
the
Eddie.
story. It was unsigned, so he didn't know. He thought it was just Eddie Gilbert. Oh, Eddie's ripping me.
Yeah, Eddie's ribbing
and
me. Yeah,
and
Greg
then
Gagne says the same thing.
and then Hogan never showed up, and he's like, and they called him like, "What happened? Didn't you get my telegram?" No, I mean, what are you talking about? It's like,
Yeah, we thought it
what?
was a rib.
Like, no, I'm not coming back. And it's like, come on, Terry, at least complete these dates. That we booked you for. It's like, oh
And
well,
we sold it out, yeah, because
yeah.
we thought it was going to be you and Andre, and we were going to give you a title shot, and you were going to be the champion. And he's like, "Well, sorry,
You should have told me
I,
sooner.
yeah, you should have told me soon." So
That's
the thing is, you can't put all the blame on Terry. You can't do
No,
that
not in
because
that
Vern should
situation
have
at
at least
least.
told Terry. Then if Terry had gone to the press, then you can't trust Terry. But
Yeah.
I think if Vern had said, "Look, Terry, I'm going to make you the champion, but I don't want you to tell anybody. We're going to keep this close to the vest because I don't want it getting out."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fine, I think Hogan would have worked with him, but I mean, little, too late. You can't blame Terry because he was
Yeah.
what he said to Vern, according to Greg Gagne, was the hey, look, I'm getting more money staying home, and he wouldn't do the dates.
Yeah. He wouldn't. So he was, he never came back, and apparently, allegedly, what happened was they were doing a tour of Japan, and Andre just said, "Look, Vince Jr. is going to take over the entire professional wrestling landscape anyway, so just sign with him."
Hmm.
And he took Andre's advice because they were always close. So it's like, and the rest is history.
Yeah,
They
it
were-
was really, and I thought, like I said, even though Kurt would come to the AWA after Hogan kind of stiffed him in
Mhm.
'84, and he was kind of like a mid card guy, even in AWA, and then he made his way up. But I mean, even that I think was like kind of the downfall of, I mean, because they were popular, they were selling out with Hogan, and at first he was a heel. Greg tells the story that Hogan, before he met Hogan, he was down on his luck. He wasn't really going anywhere. And then Vern got a hold of him and Greg too. And
Mhm.
they just kind of took him and made him a baby face. Well, they made him a heel, but people like Austin refused to boo him. They were
Mhm.
cheering for him. So they turned him immediately like that to a face, and it worked. And he was gaining popularity. They were selling out. They were on top of their game. And then the whole thing
Well,
with
yeah, and
with Vince.
Hogan had the run in the '70s with Vince Senior as a heel. So, and he worked
Hmm.
when Andre was a babyface. People
But
forget
Hogan
about
wasn't
that.
really, yeah, but he wasn't really going anywhere. And it wasn't really till he got, excuse me, till he got to Vern and Greg, when they got a hold of him, they made him a star.
Yeah.
They made him who he was. He was Hulk Hogan.
Mhm.
Not, I think he first came in as Terry Bollea, his real name. So,
Oh,
um, and like I said, it wasn't until, unfortunately,
yeah.
until
And
Greg
that,
and them got a hold of him.
yeah, I mean, but Hogan left, and he fucked him and worked for Vince, and the rest is history. You know.
Well, then he did it to Vince. If you remember in '93, after he lost the belt to
Yeah,
Yokozuna, he went off and went to WCW anyway.
for
So
that
he
big
kind of
money
did the same
contract. Yeah.
thing to Vince McMahon that he did to Vern, and Vern, wherever he was probably going, paybacks are a bitch, Vince.
I mean, if I were Hulk, I probably would have left too. It's guaranteed money. He got paid, I think, $1 million fee, per
Yep.
appearance fee, or whatever it was, just to
Hmm.
appear. Not even is. Then he got like 15% of any gate, over $1 million or something. It was an insane contract. I mean, Eric Bischoff just give him whatever he wanted. Oh, and creative control too. So, which would be drama for years to come in WCW.
Well, and that were doing that too to much of the WWF guys. And like I said with Matt on my show
Mm-hmm.
last week, him and I were talking about this, and I equate it to the same thing. Eric Bischoff was trying to do the same thing that Vince had done to the territories, only the territories were pretty much on the outs anyway. He was buying up
Yeah,
that talent.
with I think with cable, it's only a matter of time for the territories died, even if
Right.
Vince didn't do the national expansion.
If
So,
it wasn't Vince, it would have been somebody.
yep, would have
It would
been
have been somebody
Crockett. It would
else.
have been Crockett, or it would have been somebody else. Yeah.
AWA, Vern.
Hmm.
He would have ate up the smaller territories. And there was even one in Texas too. Thanks to Matt, I actually got to see an interview with Percy, who was Paul Bearer.
Uh
Oh my gosh. Couldn't wait to tell you about what I heard on there. Just how he basically got started with The Undertaker, and then the whole, Undertaker Kane thing. And I even heard a funny story, but we will get to that later.
huh.
Um, about Virgil or Mike Jones, who also passed this week.
Hmm.
I don't know. I should have looked this up, but I think one of the nitros, if you look, Kurt just is like patting his head and going, "Son of Minnesota, son of Minnesota." So he must have been from Minnesota.
I don't know. I mean, all I know is his run in WWF as Virgil, and
He
then
got the
he
million
ended up
dollar belt, and then he just
yeah
really didn't go anywhere. So when he went to WCW, he became Vincent and was like an NWO lackey. He
yeah
was always getting like killed by Sting, or like not killed, but he was always getting like, Scorpion death dropped
yeah
by Sting or something, by the baby faces.
yeah he was fodder. He would just get killed by the babyface because
Yep.
the NWO needed fodder, needed somebody. Oh, the NWO needs to get their ass kicked. Oh, send Vincent out there. He'll get beat down. Whatever.
Yeah. And then he would
Because
eventually join the, which is crazy funny, that he joined the West Texas Rednecks as Curly Bill. If anyone's seen that Nitro where he comes walking in, he's got the hat and he's got I'm like, okay. Or Shane, like eventually they would call him Shane, something like that. They would call him Shane, and I'm just like, okay, whatever, you guys. Just keep singing country. I don't care. I was a big country fan, so.
yeah. I mean, he was just his greatest moment was beating Ted DiBiase for that $1 million
Yes,
championship.
at SummerSlam 91.
Yeah.
And you hear Piper just going nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he turned on Ted DiBiase, Piper went nuts too. I mean,
Yeah,
was
he's
that
like,
Piper on commentary? I'm pretty sure it was.
yeah, at the
Yeah,
Royal
yeah.
Rumble when he drops the belt and just goes,
And
he's like, pick up my belt. And then Virgil gets on his knees, he grabs
and
the
he
belt, and then he hits DiBiase with it. And
DiBiase
Piper's
turns
like,
around.
yeah.
DiBiase turns around, turns his back to him, and monologues to the camera. And he turns around and gets nailed
Yeah,
in
he
the head
goes,
with it.
everybody's got a price, turns
Yeah.
back around, and Virgil hits
Mhm.
him with it. What are you going to need it the rest of your life?
Mhm. Do it.
And yeah, basically, that's what they
Like,
were telling him to do.
uh,
And then WrestleMania 7, I think Piper was in an accident. He was in like a motorcycle accident or something. And Virgil's like, do what you told me. Get up. Because DiBiase attacked Piper and knocked him down.
yeah, and then
and
like,
and you could see Piper's trying to get up. He's trying, it hurts.
yeah, I don't think Virgil was that good. I mean, he got over because of DiBiase, and then people wanted to see him turn on DiBiase and beat him. After that, what was next? It was nothing. I mean, he
Yeah,
wasn't.
he left. He had been DiBiase's valet for so long,
Yeah.
bodyguard,
Hmm.
but his valet. And I go back to the whole Hercules thing when I bought a personal slave. You remember that in
Hmm.
'88?
Hmm.
And it was like, it's like 1988. Who's talking about personal slaves? And that's when Bobby Heenan turns on Hercules Hernandez, who eventually just will become Hercules.
Yeah.
And you talk about a wild ride. That was just weird.
Yeah, that was Virgil's signature move was a lame ass juking punch. I mean, he wasn't good. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it was just that one angle with DiBiase once he turned, you know, Virgil would turn babyface, and then he sort of had a title shot with Brett, but nothing came of it.
I don't remember that match, but I do. I would assume
It's on
that.
Superstars. That's why it
Oh,
was on
okay.
Superstars. It's like right after. I think it was right after either Kurt turned or right after Survivor Series.
Well, Brett can work on anybody, so I wouldn't be
That's
surprised
true.
if that match was good. But it wasn't because of Virgil. I'll tell you that much.
Well, and that's why I just saw on there was a question: who was a great babyface and who was a great heel? I went, this guy, and it was a picture of Kurt Hennig. I was like, duh. But Brett could be one of the good heels too, and then he could also be a great
Yeah,
babyface.
yeah, I agree. Let's
So
see.
I didn't know much about Butch Vachon.
Neither did I.
I don't know if he is the father of Luna Vachon. That just could be one big family, but she was second generation.
Yeah, she definitely was.
And she also passed. So it's just crazy. It's kind of like the Von Erich curse almost.
yeah, they. I mean, we can do a full episode on the Von Erich's curse. I mean, the alleged curse. I heard. I think either it was a conspiracy out there. I heard it from somebody in an interview, but allegedly, Fritz von Erich was a Nazi. You know, if you remember his original gimmick here in America, when he first started wrestling.
Right, right. Jim Cornette talked about this, that he
Yeah,
was a Nazi.
and apparently some Jewish lady was offended because he was using a Nazi gimmick, making basically she thought making fun of it. So he cursed the family, basically. Allegedly, that's the story going around.
Is that the story? Ooh.
Yeah, and he
Well,
cursed Fritz's children, like they're gonna have horrible fate, whatever, and
and most of them did,
only
especially
one,
Carrie.
yeah, the only one still alive is in Kevin, the
Is
oldest.
Kevin, yeah.
Yeah,
So it
the
must have
rest of
not worked
them,
for him.
the rest of them either self-deleted or
That's right. They did.
whatever.
Yeah, they self-deleted. Uh, see, I didn't want to see the Iron Claw. I didn't want to see that movie because I like Carrie Von Erich. I don't want my image of Carrie ruined by the movie.
Mm.
And
Yeah, I
Jim
haven't seen
Cornette
the
talked
movie.
about it. No, I didn't see the movie, but
I haven't
maybe your
seen it
children
either.
have web tubes. No, that's not quite what happened there, bad cookies. I just feel bad for Carrie. I mean, he was in a bad place, and of course, um, he had gotten caught for certain things, and the from what Cornette said, the judge said, "I don't want to see you back in here." Or no, Shane Douglas said this. The judge told him, "I don't want to see you back in here," and unfortunately, he came back, and they were going to throw the book at Carrie. That's why he self-deleted.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, he was younger, and it was like
He
the
was.
just
He
just
was,
do the
I think,
jail
only in his
time.
30s. Was he
Just do
only in
the
his 30s?
something like that. Yeah, I mean, just do the jail time. I mean, it's what a couple of years, and then he could have
Yeah,
came back
yeah,
to wrestling. I mean, because he was.
yeah.
But I don't know
He
what
was the
role.
Texas Tornado, and he
Yeah,
the gimmick got over so well. He was also second generation, just like
yeah,
Kurt, and that's why that match with him and Kurt at SummerSlam was one of the best ones I had ever seen because it was Carrie and it was Kurt, and Carrie took such good care of Kurt. And watch that match. I'm telling you, you cannot tell Carrie had a prosthetic foot.
until you told me. I think our guest disappeared, but if you
That's
told
okay.
me.
He might be having internet
Yeah,
problems.
yeah. I mean, I saw him kind of, I hear he is, but like, yeah. I mean, well, Carey could have been a WWF champion if Vince would ever use him like that, which he didn't. But he was Intercontinental champion. He had a run with the Intercontinental belt, but it just didn't work. Then he was fired because of his drug issues. So
Mhm.
yeah. So we were talking about Butch Vachon, and then we went off into the Von Erichs. But okay, that's what we do here on this show.
Yeah, I like I said, I didn't know much about Butch Vachon. He probably is related to Luna somehow, but I didn't look it up. And actually, I do have a update on the whole
Oh
Billy
yeah,
Jack
go. Yeah,
Haynes
yeah,
thing. The Billy Jack Haynes has been um, he has been arrested.
yeah. I
See,
saw that.
this is what I think happened because they both had dementia, and I didn't realize that she was 15 years older than him. So here's the lowdown. Basically, his best friend had died, or I'm sorry, he had passed away. And for some reason, he married the best friend's elderly mother. My guess is probably to take care of her. And that's my guess. Okay.
Yeah,
Now she had really bad dementia, which I know can turn bad on the drop of a hat.
yeah,
What I think happened is they probably were fighting over a weapon because he also had dementia, and if
yeah.
she picked up the weapon, um, they could have been fighting for it, and it could have gone off, and oops,
Mhm.
because he described it as a
Uh huh.
mercy deleting.
Yeah.
Um, so I think honestly, I think they both had dementia, and I think they were just fighting for the weapon. But yeah,
It
he will be going to jail.
if he has dementia, I don't see how he could be held responsible for his actions. But
Yeah, just like, the whole, if everyone remembers Jimmy Snuka, this is what I was telling my guy earlier.
Yeah,
Actually, when we found out the update, which was yesterday or Thursday, I was telling my guy, I said, uh, if I remember correctly, Jimmy Snuka was too ill health to stand trial, but Billy Jack, somehow he's in jail now for the rest of his life, and I don't think there would be a trial because, again, they could come up with some reason why they need to keep him. Really, what they should do is put him into a mental institution because, again,
yeah, he
dementia can go bad just like that.
yeah he needs to be supervised,
Yeah.
and I don't think he should be in jail. But Bern Gagne also killed somebody or it deleted somebody, and then when he was in the seniors home, he had dementia too.
See, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I
Oh
mean
man.
he deleted somebody, because he had dementia and he remembered all his wrestling moves, so he got him on a choke and and he was gone. The
Mhm.
victim. He was in charge because again he had dementia. So, but
Right.
he still remembered all his wrestling moves because he was an amateur wrestler. So like
Right, right.
he
Yeah.
got him in a choke and he was gone pretty quickly.
Yeah, see, um the thing is, if you've ever dealt with that kind of stuff or had a family member with dementia, it can turn rotten just on, drop of a dime or a turn of a dime. And people can turn, like that because they think they're being attacked. You don't know what's going on inside their mind. And they can
Yeah,
think, oh, I'm under attack. I need to defend myself, which I think maybe could have happened with Billy Jack because if his wife had dementia, she could literally just, think that something's going on. She could wake up, not know who Billy Jack was, and she could
yeah,
panic and then grab, because she think a stranger is in her house, and she could grab the weapon and they
yeah,
could fight over it and it could go
yeah.
off.
Yeah, that's just another tragic situation.
And yeah, and I understand that they the thing with Billy Jack is he was so soft spoken and such a nice guy. And he never, I don't think he went to jail for the gentleman that he deleted when they had a bar fight and he won.
Mm.
And the guy deleted. Um, I don't think he stood trial for that. I don't think so.
I don't know about that incident, but
Yeah. So when Billy Jack, I think this was like before he like went to Portland and became like, tag team champs with Kurt.
yeah,
He was in a bar fight with someone and deleted them. Just
oh,
hit them too hard. He hit them too hard.
yep.
And there
Well,
was a joke going around wrestling that you don't want to mess with Billy Jack
no,
because of
I
that.
heard that too. Yeah,
Yeah, he hit him way too hard, and unfortunately, um, you know, the guy was
hmm
deleted. So, I mean, that can happen where you could hit someone just so hard that they stop breathing.
yeah, especially in the chest, because a
Hmm.
good punch right here or a good hit right there can stop your heart.
Or collapse the lung or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
hmm
So that is my update for the Billy Jack Haynes thing. Unfortunately, I don't think he'll get a trial because we do not have habeas corpus anymore.
hmm
Um, and especially because they can just hold him indefinitely and they really don't even need a reason to hold him. But the reason is they probably won't investigate it. And even if they did, he probably would still not get a speedy trial.
No, they'll probably find him incompetent to stand trial and just lock him away.
Sort of like they did with Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah.
Though Jimmy
Because,
Snuka, that was more covered up, and I think it had more to do with Vince. I've seen the Dark Side of the Ring. I saw the
it,
Dark Side of the Ring
the
episode about Jimmy
story
Snuka.
the story was because this is what 1982, 83 when Vince just bought the WWF.
It was, I think
I
it
know
was
it's before
83 or
Hogan.
84.
It's before Hogan came in. So
It might have been 83 then.
Jimmy was basically his top star. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh shit, Jimmy deleted somebody. Okay, he
His
went to the police.
girlfriend.
Yeah,
And
he
he
went
was
to the
married.
yeah he was married. He went to the police
4
station with.
kids.
The story goes he went to the police station with a briefcase. They talked for a
Mhm.
few hours, and by the time he left, briefcase Vincent had the briefcase. And he told Jimmy, "Oh, don't worry about it. That's gone." And he didn't
That's
hear of it
gone.
again until
Yep.
2015.
The only person who didn't forget was her sister.
hmm
Her sister was bound and determined to make Jimmy stand trial, and he did, of course, when he was an old man.
And he would die a few weeks later. So,
He would die
but
a few weeks later. And I think he put something about her in the book, in his book,
yeah,
because the wife said something about that.
he told his version of what happened that night.
Yeah,
in his
his
book.
version.
That's what I'm saying. His version. I don't. He might have been high off his ass on cocaine, so he don't know what he did that night. But
Yeah, they said Jimmy was a different person when he was on the sauce.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah.
He was a totally different. And the Fat 2 guy, I can't remember who he is, but
The Tonga
he
kid
taught
you talking about?
the Tonga kid. Yeah, because he
Mhm.
said he was in the car.
Mhm.
He was in the car with Jimmy, and who was it that always drove him around? Someone who drove it. Was
it
it
was
Bobby? No, it wasn't Bobby.
no what's she drove Jimmy around. I mean, she was a chaperone basically. I forget her name though.
Yeah, but because the person who drove him around originally didn't want anything to do with him because
Oh, it was
he was a completely different person.
yes, it was. I forget who it was, but initially somebody else was a chaperone, but
Yeah.
he didn't want to do it anymore. So all of a sudden, the victim she became his chaperone and became
Right.
his girlfriend. Basically, everybody
Yep.
knew what that was his road girlfriend. They would call her.
Yeah. Yeah. And he did all that while he was married with 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the Luger thing. How Luger said that Liz had hurt herself. And then, he actually built a house for Liz so they could meet up.
Yeah.
And yeah, that same thing with they think that Luger was beating Liz, would beat her.
Mm.
So
Yeah, and they were both on heavy
they were
drugs.
both heavily on they were both heavily on the sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Luger doesn't like to talk about that. And he's the one who called 911, said my girlfriend's not responding, she's not waking up.
Yeah. And I think they investigated Luger. Ultimately, they didn't charge him, but he
Oh
was
no, they
investigated.
did charge him for
Oh, he
the
what?
possession,
Oh,
yeah.
that was a possession, yeah. But
Yeah. But
I
they
was
didn't
talking,
charge her
yeah.
for any wrongdoing with her. Just
Well,
possession.
Bad cookies. This is professional wrestling. I don't think there's many feel-good stories.
This has been another episode of Dark Side.
Yeah. They have plenty of material from the from the
Mm.
70s, 80s, 90s. Well, like I said, like you said many times, I said in this show, today's wrestling, you wouldn't get much of that. I mean, the guys are so squeaky clean, and there's nothing going on with them that.
Yeah, but there has to be some kind of something going on because these guys are literally hurting themselves or injuring themselves for stupid indie stuff that they just go do it on an indie show, but don't do it on WWE. Don't do it in AEW. I I don't
AEW
understand.
is the indie fed.
Is
It's
it?
like, yeah, I mean, basically,
Makes sense.
Tony Khan hires every single indie darling out there. As soon as become indie darling, he gets instantly a 6-figure salary and a job from Tony Khan.
It's like the same thing that Vince tried to do with the territories. He didn't care who it was. He didn't care what you were on. He just wanted you, and he wanted to take out those territories.
He signed the pizza guy. I'm not sure you've seen that video with the pizza guy. He would wrestle while needing pizza. I seen that.
No.
And Tony
What?
Khan immediately signed him because the indie crowd loved him. It's like instantly signed him. I forget his name, but I think
Okay, a
Levy or
few like
something.
75 people in a garage, like a guy who can need pizza while he wrestles. Another one fondles himself while he's in the ring with other
F you.
men. Come on, for
Fucking
heaven's
F
sake.
the reason why I know who he is because I seen his match with John Moxley. Because somebody sent it to
they
me.
were kissing each other,
Yeah,
and Jim Cornette was talking about that.
Yeah, and it was one of the most ridiculous things. Like,
Sake.
what the fuck is this wrestling today? Is the
That's
indie
what they consider wrestling, is some guy fondling himself while another guy's kissing him. For
Yeah, I
heaven's
mean,
sake, that's
it's
not
like
wrestling.
no, that's nearly homoerotic pornography. I mean, I'm not sure allowed to
Yeah, if you
use
want to
that
be
word
in
here.
pornography, go be in gay pornography. This is wrestling, not gay
Yeah.
porn.
Yeah, and these guys are all indie darlings. They get over for
Matt, you're just kind of like,
like,
hmm.
is this what wrestling is today? Yes, unfortunately, in the indie circuit, it is.
Yeah, Matt, what do you think? You haven't really said much.
Can you hear
Um,
us?
we can't hear you.
Yeah, I think he's mute. Are you mute?
Are you muted? Hello. I don't hear anything.
I know my computer's being weird.
Okay,
Okay.
there you are. There you
Yeah.
are.
I was watching Hulk Hogan in Japan.
Yeah. I I said this on my show. I recently found some Kurt Hennig in Japan.
I'm not now.
You're not muted now?
No, we can hear you now.
Yeah. I think he might be having issues with his computer.
Yeah, he said he had computer issues. He
Like
was.
it's delayed, I think.
That's what it is. Yeah. All
Okay.
right. Well, he'll be
So
back.
he'll be back. So yeah, I recently within the last couple months found some Japan stuff for Kurt. He was in Japan. And what's really crazy is not crazy, but it's kind of funny that um when you watch that, he's in Japan and he was actually tag team with Nick Bockwinkel.
Yeah.
So at the time, Nick and him were against each other. So Kurt was the babyface. Nick Bockwinkel, excuse me, was the heel in the United States, but they were tag teamed in Japan.
Well, nobody in the U.S. saw Japan wrestling, or at least very few people did, which is why they got away with that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Matt, are you okay now? You can hear us okay?
yeah, I
I
don't.
guess not. Might still be a little delayed there.
Yeah, I don't because. But yeah, I mean, today's wrestling. It's I go outside of AEW. AEW's awful. Just this week on AEW, for no reason. I mean, just a bunch of crap happened. I'm like, okay, this is all terrible.
Yeah.
Either when I watch AEW, I either fall asleep or get angry. At ends of the week. That's why I don't.
You like when I'm watching, and I try not to do it too much, but when I'm watching Jimmy Dore, I'll be like laying there. Next thing I know, I'll wake up and I'll miss the whole show. I'm like, oh man,
Mhm.
I did that
Yeah,
on Saturday with you because,
yeah.
for example, I literally I, I was watching, or it was Friday. I was watching Jimmy Dore, and then all of a sudden I wake up. I'm like, oh, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so awful. And this week, it was Sting's last appearance on Dynamite, so they're making a big deal out of it.
No wonder that X stuff was all about Sting, 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 Sting. I'm like, ah,
His
I didn't
last
like Sting in
appearance,
WCW.
he made his last appearance on Dynamite, where he and the Young Bucks, who are I can't stand those little fuckers, but he and the Young Bucks are feuding with the other little dude, Darby Allen,
Ugh.
and over the tag team titles. And the pay per view is tomorrow night, so they're going on. They're going on last, obviously, in the Greensboro Coliseum. You know, Sting's last match.
Hey Matt, see if you can boot your computer. That might help.
Yeah, you should probably reboot the whole computer.
Yeah. Um, but
But
yeah, I'm sorry,
I
I
would
don't like Sting.
no, I wasn't much of a fan either. So it was like one of those things where okay, Sting. In the early '90s, I'm like, okay. I really I because I had cable then, so I would get the WCW and the Superstation on TBS. So it was like, oh, I mean, there's Ric Flair. I'm like, okay, I like
I
Flair better
like
than
him.
Sting.
Yeah, but
But
I wasn't. I know deconstruction, but I wasn't. I wasn't much for Flair either.
yeah. Well, I like Flair better than Sting. So Sting,
I didn't
I
like any of
wasn't
them.
I
No.
wasn't that impressed
Same
with
with
Sting.
DDP. I didn't like that guy. I mean, I just did a watch along with him and DDP, Kurt and DDP at Starcade, and it
Yeah,
was a great match. I just was like, I don't like DDP.
yeah. I he was again. I didn't really care about him that much either, but yeah, Sting's having his last match tomorrow night on pay per view. $50, by the way.
Nah, Goldberg sucked.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry,
y-
not sorry. The streak went on way too long.
what was
Way
it?
too
What
long.
they inflated that number, but eventually it was like 160 and 180, something like
When it
that.
got over to 200, I was just like,
Uh huh.
no, sorry. I mean, they had to pipe in the Goldberg chant. That's how much that dude was hated.
Uh, and then I've said this, I think last week, but Scott Hall did an interview and told Eric Bischoff, "You better beat this guy soon because he's getting booed."
Right, and you were right about the Goldberg believing his own hype because he wouldn't lose a match to Scott Steiner. He looked at Eric Bischoff and said, "Would Goldberg lose to Scott Steiner?" Heck yeah, he would.
Yeah, because here's the thing with Scott Steiner, he was real. He went to University of
Right.
Minnesota. He was an amateur wrestler, so he can take Goldberg and tie him up in knots before Goldberg didn't do anything about it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And they unfortunately they just messed around with the whole thing, and then Goldberg was hurting people because he didn't
Yeah,
know how to wrestle. He only wrestled for a minute, but yeah, he was still hurting people. So
fucking Goldberg. Fucking
nope.
Goldberg he's the one that ended Bret Hart's career, which is why I'm not really a big fan of his.
Yeah.
And that mule kick right in the goddamn head, and that was it.
Right.
That was I think Bret had one or two matches after that, and then he was done.
How we doing, Matt? You okay?
Yeah,
Really? Yeah. It's okay, Matt. I understand. We were having problems the other day where
yeah,
like if I wasn't crapping out, he was crapping out. So um
yeah. It's internet issues. I mean, it happened to me some weeks ago on my show, and no, it was a while ago where
mhm.
my internet completely crapped out, and I did only half an hour of my show. That's like a while ago, so hasn't
Yeah,
happened since. Thank
we only had like 55 minutes because I kept crapping out. He kept crapping out.
yeah.
I think it's
So
still a
yeah,
delay.
No,
okay.
is it? You
Uh,
okay?
you may have to restart your internet router. That could
Yeah,
help.
something. I'm so sorry, Matt. I hope it doesn't do this on Monday.
Your new show with him starts. You're starting it Monday.
Starting on Monday. It's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's
Okay.
called Black Magic Talk. Now, don't let that scare you. Magic is neither white nor black. It's just magic.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Monday night, 9 o'clock. Check it out. I mean, on your channel, I assume, right?
Well, it's going to be recorded, so it's not live.
Uh huh.
And we're going to basically, yeah, we're going to talk all things Wiccan and pagan. The first topic will be like, um, how did you come to this path, or what made you come to this path?
Okay.
And I'll just say, my spiel. He can say his spiel,
Yeah.
and but yeah, it's going to be recorded. It'll probably be dropped on Tuesday on
Okay.
my it's Missy I can't
Yeah.
even talk. Mrs. Witchy Perfect. There is, I mean, you guys can subscribe to that channel if you want to. But so
Okay, sounds good. I mean, that's the show. Probably, I thought it was live, but okay. I mean, you
oh no,
can.
no, we're gonna
Okay.
record it. Yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
record it.
Yeah.
I think it's better that way. That way we can I can kind of promote it as I see
Yeah.
fit and stuff, and hopefully as of right now I haven't heard anything of them not promoting it, though I thought maybe because of the religion part maybe
Well,
they would not promote it, but it looks
as,
like they promoted my short. So
yeah, as long as it's not political, I guess they'll promote anything pretty much. Because
well,
now
I
you,
mean, we're not talking about deleting or self-deleting. We're just
yeah.
talking about nature-based stuff, and we're talking about uh, you know pretty much whatever is Wiccan based. So when the moon phases come around. So like there's a new moon on March 10th.
Mhm.
Um, I am trying to think, when is March 10th? What day is that?
Uh, like 8 days from now, so it would be a Sunday, I
A
assume.
Sunday. So probably like that Monday, we'll talk about the new moon and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a Sunday.
Yeah. So we'll talk about like the moon phases and stuff. And
Okay, that's
yeah.
interesting. Um, so
But anyway, we were going to talk about, well, I finally heard uh about they were talking about, AEW on the Jim Cornette show, and
uh-huh.
like lazy booking. So it's, I don't know, Angel. It's like I just can't see why anyone would find this fascinating. But all the and I've seen it on X where they're just like, I mean, these fans are brutal. If you say anything against AEW,
Yes.
they literally will whine and cry and act like a little
Mhm.
child. It's like,
Yeah.
look, AEW's not great, and half
No.
their roster is literally hurt. And as Jim Cornette said, it's crap, it's lazy, and why would they even hit this?
They hate the WWE. In particular, Vince McMahon, but he's gone. He's been gone now for a couple of years. There's really no reason to hate the WWE anymore, unless they're like, I hate the WWE." I mean, they don't push indie darlings the way the AEW does. So it's like, okay, well,
Well, and they're pushing old timers that should never even step into I mean, Ric Flair, really? You want him to have a last match
oh, I'm glad
where
you
he's
brought up
gonna
Ric Flair
Okay,
because
go
he
ahead.
was in that segment. He was in that segment with Sting. He would come out to the ring and the Bucks are holding Sting somehow, even though Sting's bigger than them, and he can
Mhm.
beat the crap out of them. But Ric Flair comes out they give him a bat, like hit Sting. He's like, I hit him. He drops the bat eventually after like a couple minutes, gives the slowest eye poke of all time to one of the Bucks, and then gives the slowest punch of all time to the other one. And they sold for him like he was 1986 again. I'm like, come on, it's so bad. What Tony Khan thinks Ric Flair should be out there throwing punches. And that's what 75 and with his pacemaker is insane. But that was part of that segment too. I'm like, oh god. I mean, he's doing this with the eye poke. I'm like, it's I can do like 3 or 4 eye pokes in that time.
Back in the original Olympics.
I heard Ric Flair
I wouldn't
sold. He
doubt
wrestled
it.
Hercules back in the original Olympics.
Well, I know Jim Cornette was making fun of his wings, he's like wings, and they were just laughing their tails off because it's just like, Flair, you used to be someone honorable, and now you're selling crap. You're selling a crappy drink.
He's selling an energy drink. He put his name to
Yeah.
an energy
And
drink, basically.
I wouldn't even touch that stuff. You don't even know what's in it. I don't
No,
want to know what's in it.
I
I'm
don't
just
think
like,
Flair even knows.
no.
I don't think Flair even knows. He's like, "Oh, you want to put my name to that and give me money? Yeah, sure. I got 4 alimonies to pay anyway, so I need the money."
You saw Ric Flair in ew. Ah.
I saw Ric Flair doing
Come
some fake
on.
Viagra commercial. It popped up on my Facebook.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I
Oh, that's
mean,
so nasty.
I'm sorry. I mean, Flair's like, well, I need the money. I have 4 alimonies to pay, so it's like,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's because he literally cheated on every stinking wife he had. Why did women marry him? They must marry him for the money, because I'm telling you. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me why you would marry this dude when you know he's going to cheat on you.
Yeah.
It
Well,
doesn't
I
matter
mean,
if you have a kid with him.
yeah. He loves his first love is the wrestling
Secret
life, and
flavor is Vince McMahon.
the secret flavor is
Mastermind,
Vince.
don't make me come over there.
I have to put
I'm
that up.
sorry.
Oh, come on.
Bad image, bad image.
Well, yeah, that was awful. And the final match, like, oh, tag team title match, Young Bucks and versus Sting and Darby Allen. Darby Allen and the Young Bucks are all the same size, and I'm bigger than
Didn't
them.
that guy say didn't Darby Allen say he wanted to climb Mount Everest? And I
Yes,
went, well, that would be better than your wrestling. So
Yes,
have at it, Hoss.
yes, he said that, and Tony Khan's letting him do it while he's under contract, and still paying him, by the way, when he leaves to
That's all
do
I got
that.
to say.
Yeah, I mean, he's a money mark. And he'll allow guys to do stupid shit outside of
Right,
AEW and still pay them.
right.
Like John Moxley under contract, and he's still doing all these indie shows where like 100 people are there in a gym because that's where his heart is. He loves being in those independent leagues because that's where his heart's at. He
I'm John
wrestled.
Moxley.
I'm
I
John
can't do it.
Moxley.
I can't do it like Brian can. Brian
He,
last.
he goddamn he wrestled. He wrestled. He wrestled Nick Gage. You know that garbage wrestler.
Ugh.
And he loves it. Like that's his idol, and he would cut him up with a pizza slicer and stuff like. And the Dark Side of the Ring, and Nick Gage episode. I'm like, he didn't learn anything from his WWE days, and he was okay in WWE. He wasn't horrible. He is now. I mean, he was decent.
What was
He
his
was
name? Dean Ambrose
Dean
or something? You
Ambrose.
said.
Yep, Dean Ambrose. He was a WWE champion a couple times. He was okay. I mean, he wasn't. He was like a third wheel in the Shield, but he was okay. In AEW now, he's like. I don't. He's never learned anything, or he didn't care. He's like, hell, I'm gonna do what I want now. Tony Khan's paying me whatever I want, so I don't have to actually properly wrestle anymore.
Ugh. Ugh.
And he
Ah,
bleeds in every single match. Every
this
single
is
match he has,
not
he's like,
wrestling, y'all. This is not wrestling. This is garbage. Just like Jim Cornette
mhm,
says, it's garbage. It's not even wrestling. I don't know what this is anymore. I'm
it's not
looking at it
wrestling.
going,
It's
no.
garbage. It's
Like if
garbage.
you want to be like a gymnast, is what Jim will say. Like they're
Yeah.
just gymnasts. Well, if you want to be a gymnast, go be in the Olympics or something. But don't do this garbage crap here. This is wrestling.
The primary example of that is that Will Ospreay character. I mean, that's what he does. He's not a wrestler. He's like a circuit. He's like a Cirque du Soleil gymnast.
Right.
He's like.
Right.
I mean, he's a great athlete. Like I said, I think we talked about this him last week. He's a great athlete, but he's not a wrestler. And people were like, "Oh, AEW got him." When he signed with AEW, "Oh, AEW, great job! You got one of the best wrestlers in the world." And I'm like, "No, not a professional wrestler. I mean, he's a great athlete. I
Right.
mean, he can do the movie, but not a wrestler." Kenny Omega, same thing.
Oh, God, I hate that guy. They were going over the awards of 2023.
The
And
PWI Pro Wrestling Dave Meltzer thing. Yeah,
yeah, the Dave
I,
Meltzer thing, and if you look at the artwork from Travis
uh-huh.
Travis something, and then
Yeah.
it was like Kenny Omega holding a dildo going like this, and then Matt and Dave Meltzer going. I was just like, oh, come on, that's not
It
right.
doesn't make any sense. That
Well,
that
yeah, because I
it,
mean, you heard Cornette going, "Oh, come on!" Like every
yeah,
time it was like Will Ostrich was like the number one person, and I'm like, I guess I don't even know who this person is.
yeah. I mean, it's like the best wrestler. Who was the top wrestler? I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, was it Ostrich or Osprey? I
No,
mean,
I think like
I know it wasn't Cody, even though people
it should have
it
been
was
Cody.
yeah,
It should have been. I think it. No, I think it
or
was it
was it
Roman
Okada?
Reigns? I think it might have been CM Punk, but that doesn't sound right either. I
No,
don't think
it
it was
might have.
CM Punk.
It was Okada. I mean, he's the big
Yeah.
indie darling from Japan right now. So,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sure Tony Khan is signed too, even though he hasn't debuted yet. I'm
Ole
sure
Anderson
Tony
was.
Khan.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I mean, I was going to read this anyway.
Was talking about bringing in the Legion of Doom after watching Mad Max: The Road. See, I don't know what happened with that. I know there was a lot of people who wanted to have like a Legion of Doom in their territory, so there was a lot of remakes. Demolition is one of them.
Demolition was the most famous,
Mhm.
most successful
Yep.
remake, at least,
Most,
of Legion of
yeah,
Doom.
most success. I don't know if you would consider. I'm trying to think who else they were trying to get, but there's a story from Jim Cornette that actually, if it wasn't for Doink or Matt Bourne, there would have been no Road Warriors.
I don't
That
know
they were
that
kind
story.
of formed because Matt had kind of messed with a 17-year-old. And actually, they were also talking about like maybe Rick Rude would have been in the Road Warriors at one point.
Hmm.
before they had Mike and Joe, Hawk and Animal.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of they tried to recreate a lot of people or tag teams like the Road Warriors, but none of them were like the Warriors, Road
No.
Warriors.
No, they were the best at that style, of tag team matches. And they always worked well with like smaller heels, like the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette. I mean, they
Hmm.
love working with the Road Warriors. And they would bump for them most of the match, and then and then they loved working with the Road Warriors. And the Road Warriors loved working with them too. They had their best matches with them.
Yeah, I
I,
like I've seen Mike Awesome in WCW. I really wasn't much for him. I do like Mick Foley, but I liked Cactus Jack better than anything else, better than Mankind, better than Dude Love. I was like Dude Love every time he would come out, his stupid music would get stuck in my head because I'm like,
mm,
well, that's he's just playing a hippie character. Yeah, I get
yeah,
that, but
yeah, Mick Foley.
Dude
Yeah, he would.
love, baby. Like, stop it. This ain't the 70s
He
or the 60s anymore.
The problem with Mick, he was the inspiration for a lot of these garbage wrestlers today. Like
Because
they
he did
talk about,
stuff, yeah.
yeah, but the difference is Mick Foley's able to tell stories by doing that. They can't. They're like they forgot about that part and just do garbage weapons matches for no reason.
Your
So,
computer or you? You have a speech impediment or your computer? Um, I- okay, here's the lowdown. I do like Cactus Jack a little bit because he would go bang bang.
hmm
Uh, yeah, we weren't much for the the hardcore stuff. That was more started by Terry Funk, who
yes,
was like the hardcore king, and he would do anything. He would do barbed wire, he would do the whole thumbtacks thing, and then McFoley, because they were best friends,
he
kind
picked
of
it up.
took it and ran with it, right?
Yeah.
So and Percy was talking about this too, that Mick had come to him and Undertaker and said, I want you to throw me off the cage. And Mark went, what?
What?
No, I really, he's like, yeah, I want you to throw me off of the cage and I fall onto the table. And I'm like, wait, he told you he wanted to do that? Um,
I
the
don't know. I guarantee you they didn't tell Vince that was gonna happen. I mean, they did that. They kept that to themselves because no way Vince would approve that.
I see, I don't know. I think Vince would have gone for it anyway. Because if it was good wrestling, or he thought it was good wrestling to put Mick through the table or throw him off the cage. Well, the other one was a botch. When Undertaker
Yes, the second
backdrops
one.
him,
Hmm.
and the cage gives way, that was a botch. The cage
Yeah,
shouldn't have
that.
given way. He would just land on the cage
Yeah,
and take a
that
bump
was.
like that. But he
Instead,
went
he
right
went
through,
through. Mhm.
and the referees had to come and say, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?"
The- Then Terry Funk was there too. I remember Undertaker chokeslamming him
Hmm.
because they were trying to delay so Mick would come back because he was unconscious or try. So
Yeah, when I was watching that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, he actually told you what he wanted you to
yeah,
do?
and
Holy
Terry Funk
cow!"
Terry Funk got up, told the Undertaker, chokeslam me because he's out.
Hmm.
Let's delay something. And that's when he grabbed him and chokeslammed him, and
Was
his
that when
shoes
they
came
were
off.
like,
Yeah,
Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack?
no, Terry. He was Terry. I assume he was Terry Funk because he didn't have the
Oh,
He just
the thing over his
yeah
face.
he just came out like that because he was worried about his friend. I guess it was like a shoot. So Terry told
Oh.
Undertaker, chokeslam me. He's out. Let him. He's like so just delay. So he
Yeah,
grabbed him and chokeslammed him.
that was one heck of a match, though. I mean, the fans popped for it. They were kind of like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh!" And you could hear Jared go, "Oh my god, he's dead. He's totally dead now."
Yeah, he's dead.
I was just
And the
like,
match,
"End the match." Yeah.
and the match continued. I thought it was over. I was 98. I was 12. I was like, oh no, this match is over. Like, there's no way. And it continued at 20 minutes. I'm like, Mick
Hmm.
Foley's a psychotic, crazy guy. I mean, there's no way nobody else would have continued that match, but he
Have you ever
did.
seen those home videos that he actually brought to Vince?
Hmm.
Those home videos of him jumping off the roof and
Yeah, I've seen
onto
those.
guys. I'm just like, well, if he did that stuff when he was young, when in Rome, right?
On Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic, but if you see him today, he can barely move. Mick can barely move, so he's lucky he can walk.
Well,
because he
that's why
walks
he
kind
doesn't
of
fight today. He won't
no.
wrestle today
In
because he
fact, he was supposed to work a program with Dean Ambrose in WWE like 10,
get
15
out,
years ago. Yeah,
get out.
they were going to do a hardcore match at WrestleMania, but his doctor wouldn't clear him. It's like,
No, I
you're
wouldn't
like,
either. That dude
yeah,
is crazy.
yeah,
He's like what, 50, 60 years old, and he's trying to do what he did back when he was 30
yeah,
and 40.
he would have.
No, dude, come on.
And at bringing up Mick, I mean, I saw on Twitter he put out, I'm going to do one more match. Because his excuse is, well, I mean, it'll give me it'll force me to lose weight and get healthier for this match. That's his excuse,
You
at
could
least.
you could do that anyway. You didn't have to get back into a match and be like Ric Flair and pass out 3
Yeah,
times.
yeah. So that's his excuse of why he wants to do one more match. So right now he's trying to get somebody to book it. I'm sure Tony Khan would love to book that, Mick. He'll give you a shit ton of money too.
If Vince doesn't. Yeah, Cactus Jack, he lost his mind. I would say Mick Foley just, I mean, it's the love of the crowd when it pops, like, holy,
That's what they love. That's what he
wow,
loves.
that
Yeah.
was, excuse me for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like Mick Foley was just crazy when it came to that kind of stuff. And Percy said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And he was like, "Yeah, just do it." So Undertaker did. He just threw him right off the cage, and he just kind of came down on the table.
That hasn't really been attempted since. I mean,
No,
yeah, there's some guys over the years
thankfully.
who's jumped off the cage and went through a table. Like Shane McMahon attempted it a couple of years ago against The Undertaker
Yeah.
at WrestleMania, where he was on top and Taker was on the announce table. And when he jumped off, he moved and went through the table. There was a crash pad there. People, I mean, if you really look closely, you can see it underneath the table, but it's hard to see.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, Shane ended up having some sort of hernia where his belly, like his intestines came out to his belly button. It was bad. He nearly
Ooh.
killed himself doing that. Then he, of course, finished the match, but because you always got to finish the match in wrestling. But
Yeah, but okay, so well, yeah, I get that because Vince came out, tore his quads, and sitting there in the ring like this.
yeah, the
He's
Royal
sitting
Rumble.
down.
It was 2000, 2004. No, 2000, no, 2005. This is when Batista and John Cena would become the next top guys.
Of course.
So yeah, so they accidentally eliminated each other at the same time. Literally, they landed at the same time. It wasn't supposed to happen.
Kind of like
So
Brett and Luger.
yes, but the difference is that was supposed to happen, and they were co-winners that year. But Vince didn't want co-winners that year, so he was very angry. He came to the ring like, like his power walk. Accidentally hit his quads on the apron, jumped into the ring anyways, and and just sat
And
like
just
this.
sitting there going like this.
And he's like has this pace where he's absolutely in pain. You can see it, but he's like, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Okay,
Sending the doctor. Is
yeah,
there
and
a
he's
doctor in the
then he's like,
house?
then that's when he ordered the match restarted, and Batista threw him out and won. But
Well, that match that you allowed me to see on X, the Japan match,
hmm
was probably a lot better because it made more sense in Japan. In America, it didn't make no sense. It was John Moxley and Kenny Omega, right? In that blast match where they blew up the ring.
they did that in Japan. I didn't know that they're copying the thing they did in Japan because it did in AEW, but it came off
Yeah.
horribly. If Jim Cornette, I sent you that video where
Yeah, and
they
I
review the
watched all of
match.
it, and it was awesome because he's
It,
just like, "What the heck was this?" I
yeah,
mean, Bobby Lashley's coming out, and John
uh
Moxley's in the ring trying to cover Kenny Omega. No, stop that! Stop
yeah, it
that!
was Eddie Kingston, I think, who did that. He
Eddie
came to the
Kingston,
ring
yeah, not
and
Bobby
and
Lashley.
covered him and like poof. I saw it. I actually saw it. I was like, oh, I didn't order the pay per view, but I saw it on Twitter.
Well,
I'm like,
that was garbage anyway. Don't do
yeah,
that stuff. We don't need blowing stuff up.
the
This
referee
is not
wasn't.
a shoot 'em up movie.
The referee was like in a hazmat suit. They went like ridiculously over the top with it. I mean, it
Right.
was like, come on. And Jr. was like throughout the broadcast, like you can tell in his voice, he was like, really, I'm doing this. Oh well, Tony Khan's paying me, so whatever. I have to call this goddamn match when he called some of the greatest match. He called Austin and Brock, and he called a lot of these great matches. Taker and Mick. I mean, again, he was on the call for that when him and Jerry Lawler, and now he has to call this garbage. But
Excuse
as
me.
Jim Cornette said, well, Jr., you took the money, that's what you get.
Yeah, that's what you get. I mean, if you're not going to, I mean, if you're going to sell out, basically.
Yeah, and Jim
I
told the
mean,
story how
JR
he.
deserved way better than that. These are
Yeah, I agree.
garbage matches
Yeah.
that he's calling, and I agree. The worst one was if you, I love how Bobby Heenan talks about Tony Schiavone because he's absolutely correct. Tony wouldn't put anybody over. He would keep things to himself, and he would do the so like when they would do an angle or whatever, he wouldn't say who was going over and who was doing this and who was doing that. Tony Schiavone wouldn't he wouldn't react the right way. And it's like, well, then why are you commentating?
I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did on Nitro. I mean, he
Really?
wasn't a help to that show at all.
No.
He wasn't, because he wouldn't put the wrestlers over properly. I mean, it was
Right.
like the whole situation with I
Sorry.
think it was with Hogan's heel turn. I mean, he was on commentary that night, and it sounded like crap. I mean, it was like it ruined. I still enjoyed the heel turn, but it was like, what the hell was Tony Schiavone doing there?
The
Bobby
whole thing
Heenan
with
was great there. Bobby Heenan
Yeah,
was
he
like,
was really great. I like Bobby Heenan, but I mean, the whole thing with Kurt, he would act like a dickhead to Kurt. Oh well, I like Ric Flair and blah blah blah. I'm gonna leave the set now. Oh, go suck his dick on your own time, for heaven's sake.
I remember Schiavone in WWF. He was there for a year. I
Yep,
think in
in
93,
89.
89, yes.
Mhm.
And he was awful. I mean, Vince hated his southern accent.
Well,
So
that and he literally was just like, oh, that's great, blah blah blah.
he was him and
Talk
Jesse
about the match,
Ventura.
idiot.
Him and Jesse Ventura did a few pay-per-views. It was awful. And then
Rumble.
yeah, Vince made him take dictation classes because he hated his southern accent. So he took
Yeah.
those classes for a while because it was Linda who hired him. Because Linda liked him. So and they
Mm.
put him on commentary, and Vince was like, "Ugh, he's pulling his hair out with his southern accent." And even ironically, he would hire Jr., he
Who
has a
has a,
worse,
a thicker accent
yeah,
than Shivani did.
yeah.
But
But
if
he
you
hated
listen, I don't
Shivani.
think you can hear the southern accent. Maybe
Who,
at the
Shivani?
beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, I think those dictation classes might have helped him, and later when he went back to WCW. But I didn't notice it either. Then,
Okay. I didn't know he took dictation classes, but I do know that, yeah, I mean, if you watch some of those old WWF at the time, especially in 98 or 98 in 89,
yeah,
definitely, yeah, because they would dub over him and Alfred Hayes, Lord Alfred Hayes, and then there was some with him and Jesse, and then some with him and Sean Mooney. So and
hmm
and they would do Kurt matches and Mr. Perfect matches, and I'm just like, why are you even talking? You seem like it just seemed like he didn't know anything about wrestling. He just was
no,
kind of like a commentator.
yeah, he was a sports guy. I think he came
Was he a sports
from.
guy?
I think he covered. I think he may have done announcing for football or something. I mean, I know Jr. eventually would do football later, much later on, but but yeah, I mean, he wasn't good. He wasn't good in WWF. He wasn't good in his second run in WCW. I mean, it was, and he's definitely not good in AEW. If you hear his commentary, it's the same thing. Oh, this is great. Oh, I love this. Like it is not. He
They should
doesn't.
have a counter every time he says great
Yeah,
instead
he
of Tony
doesn't.
Khan.
Yeah, he doesn't watch these matches.
Do we think that Linda
Yeah, I
McMahon
was
took
gonna get to
advantage
this.
of the talent the way Vince did? Uh, took advantage in what way? A good way or a bad
Yeah,
way?
li- as far as I know, every shoot interview I've seen, everybody likes Linda. I mean, she's not as hated as Vince was.
Um, I don't. Linda was more behind the scenes.
Yeah, she
Vince was more out in the way. I'm
bad
not
way.
really sure what that meant in a bad way.
Eh,
Like taking advantage of talent in a bad way. I think Linda saw opportunities. Maybe she turned a few of the wrestlers into her boy toys. That I've not heard such a thing. No.
yeah, I've not heard that either. But
She may be in Florida with a pool boy as her main squeeze, but I'd never heard
yeah, but
her
she
and wrestlers getting it on.
Yeah, and then if everybody like loves her, and the rare occasion she'd be backstage,
Yeah.
usually she was a CEO for years, so she wouldn't even go to the show. She just ran the business side, while Vince ran the wrestling side. It's like,
Yeah. Her and Stephanie and Shane were, well, Shane started out as like a referee,
yeah,
and he
in the
wouldn't,
early
for
'90s.
some reason Vince would not give him the company. I don't know what is this with promoters not giving their sons the reins.
Yeah,
I,
it's
Vern did the
tough.
same thing with
It's,
Greg Gagne.
yeah, eventually AWA went under, and Eric ended up going to WCW.
Mhm.
But yeah, same thing with Shane. I mean, Shane never got the company. He wanted it too. It was
He
obvious.
wanted it, yeah, and then well, and it was like, well, if I can't have this, then give me WCW once he bought it out.
He wouldn't do that
So
either.
he wouldn't do that either. No.
And then it was Shane in the mid '90s tried to convince Vince to buy the UFC in the early days of UFC. You know that story. Vince ultimately wouldn't
Mhm.
buy it, but he tried to
No.
buy it.
And what's funny is now the UFC or Endeavor
They
bought
all merged together.
WWE. Yeah.
So in an ironic way, Shane got his wish, but
So ironic.
yeah, but he didn't get it. Allegedly, Dixie Carter did. Yes, Booker T talked about that. Dixie Carter and the wrestlers because Dixie Carter, I'm not sure you know her. She owned TNA for a long time.
Yes, I've heard stories of her.
Yes, Booker T told stories how she was, she and the boys would start flirting, and they'd spend all night at the bar. Jim Cornette did too. Like when he walked by the hotel, he would see the hotel bar. He would see Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and all those guys, hanging out with her, giving her drinks of wine and stuff. He went to his hotel room. He didn't know what the hell happened after that, but he would see them after
Yeah,
tapings.
I remember him saying that. Yeah, and I mean, I would hope that nothing would go any further because both those boys were married. But you know what happens. You remember that one Nitro where Nash came on with that big-breasted hooker, and I turned it off.
Yeah,
I said, I'm not watching this. If you want to parade hookers in wrestling, fine, but not on this. It's wrestling, not parading hookers around.
that was late stage WCW, and nobody
Yeah,
gave a shit at that point. So it was
yeah,
like,
pretty much.
fuck it, I'm still getting paid my 7-figure salary, so let me bring out a big breasted hooker for no reason, and cut a
Yeah,
promo with
I
her in the
mean,
ring.
I'm like, okay, I'm turning this off.
Yeah, it was late stage WCW. I think it might have been Russo booking, so it was more
Oh
like Nash
God.
didn't give a shit. So it was like, let me just do this. Nobody gonna stop me anyways.
Yeah, because he always liked the big-breasted women.
Mm.
Well, guess what, Russo? We don't like you. Kind of creepy.
To this day, Vince Russo is still running his mouth about how he can book AEW better than Tony Khan on his podcast.
I would love to see that because it's probably going to be just as garbage as
Yeah,
everything
it
else
would be.
was in WWF at the time, and
It
then
would be.
WCW.
Yeah, it's old man Barker. Yes, Sable. I mean, that's Vince Russo's ideal woman.
She had so much Sable and I want to say Sunny, but Sunny was more of a wrestler than Sable was. But all
Yes,
that plastic surgery, and look at her now. She looks horrible. She
she's
looks like
Brock
her face is
Lesnar's
about
wife.
to, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, she was Mark Marrow's wife, and then she ended up being
Brock.
Brock Lesnar, and Brock
Hmm.
Lesnar turned around and cheated on her. So what goes around comes around,
Hmm.
Sable.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn shit stain. That's right. Shit stain. I'd love to see him book because he sucked. Big
Tony.
breasted hooker sounds scientific. It's
Yeah.
not. It wasn't scientific then.
Tony Khan was a mark for WWF Attitude in the '90s. He loved the Attitude Era in the
He
'90s. So
also
that's why
liked
he's
big
booking.
breasted women. And I'm
That's
like, okay, great. You can find them a dime a dozen. But
yeah.
what I want is literally people who could wrestle, like Luna Vachon. She could wrestle. Sherry
Yes.
Martel could wrestle.
Pro-
Uh,
eh, I would
Rockin'
love to see
Robin.
one of her matches. I mean, Vince never really used her in the ring. I mean, it was more like
Right.
she was a ballet for all the
For
other
yeah,
guys.
yeah. And women's wrestling kind of disappeared in the 80s, but then they
Mm.
became the valets.
Yeah.
Even Miss Elizabeth took bumps.
Yeah.
She would take bumps if she had to, but just
Eventually.
Sable wouldn't.
Yeah. No, I mean she was special. She was women's champion. That was like the worst part in the late '90s. and she was working with Luna Vachon, and Vince wanted Luna to hit her with the belt in the back. He's like, she wouldn't take a bump.
She wouldn't take a bump.
So Luna had to like kind of push it into her for her to like kind of fall like a accordion, like in stages. It was awful.
Yeah, it was awful. And if you've seen a picture of her now, she
Yeah, I've
looks
seen her
awful. She looks like
recently.
her face is about to cave in.
Yeah.
Rena doesn't look so good.
Mm.
And that's
The,
got to be really intense talking at the table. Oh, Brock, so what's this I hear about you, while you're eating the chicken or whatever? What's this I hear about you wanting to screw Vince McMahon's girlfriend?
mm-hmm.
And that was part of the contract.
Allegedly, that
That's
was the
crazy.
deal.
Allegedly.
Brock, he got a bunch of money from Vince again, and then that his girlfriend was like the extra side piece, and like we talked about originally, that Brock is allegedly into urination, so he asked her
Yeah.
to urinate on video, send it to her, so like
I
send it
mean,
to him
whatever
rather.
whatever gets you through the night. That's what John Lennon said. But I mean, come on, guys. If you can't, if you don't want to be with your wives, divorce them. I don't understand. I guess as a woman, I just don't understand. I mean, I
Uh,
didn't want to be with my ex, and I'm not. So I
yeah,
don't understand what the whole thing is, but just get a divorce. But
yeah, it wasn't really that
you want to
good.
be a bachelor, get a divorce.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've never been married, so I've let's
I was
see.
married briefly, but only for a year, and I found out he was cheating on me. So, and I got a divorce.
There you
That's
go.
how it goes. I mean, I did
Mm-hmm.
it.
Well, wrestlers, they are on the road 300 plus
I mean,
days
I
a
can get,
year.
yeah, it
So,
can be expensive. Yeah, I get
mm,
that. But I mean, it's better than, you know, I mean, if your wife finds you cheating, she's going to divorce you anyway.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's not good. I mean, cheating is horrible, but this like these guys on the road 300 days a year, so they have, girlfriends or whatever, road girlfriends
Yeah.
or rats.
Rats,
And
wrestling,
mm-hmm.
yep.
It's a wrestling parlance for, groupies, female
Groupies,
groupies.
yeah. Basically groupies, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They would follow the wrestlers around the road, and or follow them to the building, and then I think Flair was famous for having rats around him, and most of
Oh
the
my
guys were.
God. And like I said, he cheated on every single wife he has ever had, and he's been
Hmm.
married 5 times. Okay,
Yep.
Flair, stop. And women, stop. Stop it. He's not going to give you that money. He probably wants you to sign a prenup anyway.
Yeah, these days. I mean, back in the day, he didn't, and now he has to pay 4 wives alimony.
That's why he's probably back in wrestling, because
Yeah.
he literally has to pay all that debt.
Yeah.
And I think all his kids are grown, but he probably had
Yeah.
to pay child support too.
Yeah. All his kids are adults now, and I think the only one still in wrestling is Charlotte, but
And she's
the re-
still hurt, isn't she? She hurt her
yeah,
ankle.
she hurt her knee, but she's on the way back. I mean,
Well, good.
I've seen her rehab videos. I'm like, damn, after only 2 weeks, she's back in the gym, working out her knee. I'm like, wow. I mean, she's in great shape. But oh,
Well,
come on, bad cookies.
Chris Benoit's wife,
I heard.
unfortunately, not unfortunately, but fortunately, was Kevin Sullivan's wife first.
Hmm.
Oops.
Yeah,
Just
like
like
I think we talked about that too. Sullivan
yep,
booked his own divorce, basically.
booked his own divorce. So did Christine Jarrett, Christine Jarrett used to be Christine Angle, and now she's
Uh huh.
Christine Jarrett. And he
Yeah.
doesn't like to talk about that. If you've ever seen Jeff Jarrett's podcast, he does not talk about any of that.
Well,
He'll just say,
no.
well, they were separated. Okay, but they were still legally married, Jared, and you
Hmm.
started messing with someone else's wife.
I mean,
Oopsie.
what's worse about it is TNA, and I'm pretty sure Vince Russo. I don't think he was booking then, but they decided to put him in like this big angle together for like 2 years,
Hmm.
and they had all that personal stuff. I'm like, I mean, I get it, the personal stuff sells, but at the same time, it's like, how you expect these guys to have matches, professionally, without them trying to hurt each other?
Did that happen with Randy Savage too?
Uh,
Um,
you
I don't
mean
think.
Liz became Liz was someone else's wife and became his,
I don't
or
know. I thought something with him and Hogan.
oh, yeah, Jim
Oh,
Cornette talks about this. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So this is the rumor. The rumor is that Hogan was in a ski accident,
Uh
jet
huh.
ski accident, and got popped in the eye. And as Beefcake tells it, which is freaking hilarious, Beefcake says, "Oh yeah, he got hit so hard with a jet ski, he was about to lose his eye or something." And Jim Cornette goes, "Get out of here. That's not what happened, dude." Liz was living with Hogan and Hogan's wife, Linda, and
Mhm.
Randy took it personally because they didn't tell Randy where Liz was at when they were getting a divorce and having problems.
Yeah.
Um, and then, that was payback from Randy Savage to Hogan. I
Mhm.
think, to be
That makes.
honest, to be truer than true, and I love Liz and I love Randy both. But Randy, there's so many stories, and Lanny will say, "No, no, no, that's not what happened." I can't do a Lanny impression, but I mean,
Mhm.
Lanny, I know you loved your brother, but there are so many wrestlers, and even Howard Finkel came out and said, "Yeah, he basically was he locked her in a cage. He would leave her at home with TV dinners and expected her not to go anywhere or see anybody or talk to anybody. I mean, he would lock her in her dressing room, for heaven's
Yeah.
sake. He would basically just hover over her. And I'm sorry, guys, but when you do that to your women, we feel like we're a bird in a cage, and just sometimes we
Mhm.
can't. There's only so much we can take.
Randy,
You can't be hovering over us all the
rest.
time, and eventually it just came back to bite Randy in the butt. Dude, she
Yeah.
married you. She chose you. Yes, she was a very pretty woman, but she chose you, dude. She wouldn't have
She's
married
like,
someone else if
yeah,
she
the
wanted
way.
someone else.
So a lot of wrestlers tell that story, but make excuses for it. Like, oh, I mean, he loved his wife so much, he was
Brett.
overprotective.
Brett said
That,
that. Yeah, they loved
yeah,
each other so much that they literally were overprotective of each other.
yeah,
Okay, fine, but you don't lock someone in a
yeah.
dressing
That's
room.
so. A lot of the wrestlers kind of make excuses for what we would call abuse today, but yeah, I mean, it's not.
I
It
don't know if it
was.
was abuse. I mean, it was sort
It
of
was.
like overprotective.
Yeah.
And there comes a point where every human being in this world, even if you're the sweetest woman or sweetest person in the world, eventually you will get tired of that. And
Mhm.
I love Randy to death because he and this I will play this on Rumble on my channel
Mhm.
eventually. I have a new theme song with pictures of Kurt, and it's Randy Savage and his rap. It's called "My Best Friend" or "My Perfect Friend."
Uh,
And when I heard it, I started crying because it's like he says, "We know you're in a better place, but it hurts because I can't see your face."
uh-huh.
And that that gets to me every time. I'm just
Ran-
like, um, but and my guy laughs at me. He was just like, "What are you crying for?" I'm like, "This." um, but and then I was telling this to my guy too. It's like he literally just literally he was overbearing. There comes a
yeah.
point when you can't lock someone in a room forever. Okay,
Mhm.
there's gonna and Liz would go, "Well, he does this all the time." Yeah, Liz, that's the problem.
Yeah.
He's over protective and jealous, even though you married him.
Yeah. And
There's no crying
Randy,
in wrestling. Yes, there is. Especially when your wrestler's no longer here and he was a true
Randy,
wrestler.
Randy was like, no, I told you to stand here. Like he would
He would make her go under
under
like
the
when
rope
yeah, under the ropes so
over
that
and
she
over
wouldn't
again.
show anything. Like she
Yeah.
had to pull her dress down and she
Yeah.
would he made her do that like 100 times.
Yeah. Just to
Over
make
100
sure that,
times.
yeah, over and over again before the show's like, this is how you do it. And eventually, it was like, wow. I mean, that I get, why. I mean, I get you don't want to show anything, but I
Right.
mean, if Vince made her wear these opulent dresses where they were up to here,
And they
and
were
like,
spectacular. I loved them.
yeah,
I was just like,
yeah.
"Damn, I want to dress like that."
Like
Um
Vince bought. I'm not sure if they bought them or they rented them at the time, but she would wear like these opulent dresses. Like, wow,
And Randy would hate that because it would be
yeah,
lower than what
yeah,
he wanted, or it would be
yeah.
too short, and Randy didn't like that. Have you guys heard the story of the fart heard around the world?
You think you
Jerry
told it
Sags.
before? Yeah, you told it before, but
Okay, yeah. I mean, Jerry says, I mean, it's not like Liz was right behind me and I put my butt in her face and went, like, it's not like I did that. Her face was not even near. I mean, she was what, 30 yards the other way, He wasn't even, they weren't even close. But like, Randy was pissed.
Yeah, because I'm not sure somebody told him different, but he was pissed at Jerry for a long time after that. It's like, what? Oh yeah, what did you do?
I mean, like I said, I love.
One of the matches.
Go ahead.
Oh, one of the matches I watched the most when I was a kid was Ric Flair and Randy Savage, and Flair cut his forehead, and the camera caught it perfectly. So I was 12 or something, and I watched that over and
Are
over
we
again, going, "Holy smokes!"
talking
That'd be WrestleMania.
WrestleMania 8?
WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not gonna lie because it didn't have Kurt. I just kind of was like,
It
okay,
was a
moving
great
on.
match. It was a great match though.
It was a great
Between
match.
Flair and Savage, yeah.
Yeah. And there was a lot of emotion in there, but I think because I wasn't much for Rick, I just was like, this match. Sorry. I know. I will go and watch it if I have to. But the thing is, I wish Kurt had been at ringside, but he wasn't allowed to be.
Yeah,
So
but then a
he was allowed to
stipulation.
be at SummerSlam when it was Warrior and Randy, but he
Mhm.
wasn't allowed at WrestleMania 8, and I think that sucked. So let me think. What can I say about WrestleMania 8 other than it kind of sucked?
The main event sucked.
There
I
was
mean,
there's two main events actually.
it's a double main event. But yeah, it was
You
supposed
do
to
that
be
too well.
it was supposed to be Hogan and Savage. I mean Hogan and Flair 1-on-1 for the title.
Yep.
But of course, Ric
Hogan
Flair didn't want it.
skedaddled.
Hogan didn't want to put over Flair. Flair didn't want to put over Hogan, and I'm like, get the match in the ring. I mean, do a disqualification. I don't care, but at least get. Even though I would have pissed people off because on pay per view, but
And bad cookies. The thing is, when I got into wrestling, it was more WCW, and at the time, my mother, who was very abusive, would not buy the pay-per-views. My dad would, but my mom would never do that. So what I did in the '90s, when I watched, like, I listened to Fall Brawl as if it was a radio, and
yeah, you would
that's
have
how I knew the
those
outcomes of the
the
matches.
squiggly
Yeah,
lines and
the
stuff. Yeah,
squiggly
but
lines.
hmm
Yes. I would just like listen to it like a radio, and my mom would walk in my room and go, "What are you doing?" Well, I'm just listening to a little wrestling like it's a radio. And she'd be
hmm
like, "Okay," and then just walk right back out. But yeah, she wouldn't pay $20, $30 for a pay-per-view, even though I would have at the time I would have loved to watch the heel turn that Kurt did shutting the cage door on Flair's head. But I had to watch it or listen to it like it was a radio.
What the? I mean, that was a moment too. It was like, uh,
It was the
Kurt.
greatest ever. And I talk about this on my show. People apologize for that. Eric Bischoff said, "Well, we shouldn't have done it in Charlotte." Where else were you going to do it? Where else would
Why?
it make sense? I was telling my guy this. Where else would it make sense? Ric Flair was billed from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah,
Where else were you going to have it make sense?
he was made in Charlotte, even though it
Right.
came from the AWA initially, but he was made in Charlotte.
He was
Became
originally from Minnesota.
yeah,
Okay,
he
we
would
get that.
yeah.
But it wouldn't make any sense to shut the cage door on his head in Minnesota. There's no you would have had fans go, "What the hell is this? Why are
Mhm.
they doing this? It doesn't make any sense." It
Mhm.
made sense in Charlotte, and it got the heat. There's that word again. It got that heat that it needed. You know, they always say heels need heat. In fact, I heard Bobby Heenan says it himself that him and Rick Rude didn't really get along. I mean, they did, but they didn't because
Yeah.
Rick thought that Bobby was taking his heat.
Yeah.
And he wanted all that heat for himself. He wanted guys to, "Oh, I
Mhm.
can beat that guy." And no, he couldn't because, Rick
Yeah.
was a great
No, he couldn't. But
fighter.
yeah, but he just wanted that heat from the guys, and Bobby was
Right.
kind of a big heel himself, so it was kind of tough. But I thought the pairing worked. Me personally, I mean, I liked it, but
Yeah, it was a great pairing, but like How else was Kurt going to get heat? He wanted the heat that came with shutting the cage door, making Ric Flair the baby face and Kurt the heel. He was going to turn to the NWO anyway. So
Yeah.
why would you apologize for doing it in Charlotte, North Carolina? I said the people who walk away from this are people who literally
Mm.
just said, "I can't believe this. I'm out of here. This is bull crap." The people who actually bought tickets and wanted to see Kurt get his comeuppance, those that's what you call heat, because
Yeah.
they wanted to see Kurt get his comeuppance. That's the ultimate heel move right
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
Didn't they do the same thing to British Bulldog? Shawn Michaels beat him in England using his move for the Intercontinental belt.
right. And
Hmm.
that was to get heat for Shawn Michaels, so that they could actually get heat from the fans and keep the fans in suspense and keep them coming back. The people who walked away, don't worry about those people. Those people probably thought it was fake and it was stupid and it was a dumb angle. Whatever. They can think
Hmm.
that all they want, but don't apologize for doing something correctly. See, that's the problem with Eric Bischoff. He would apologize for doing things correctly. And that's what I didn't like.
Eric Bischoff's too much of a corporate guy. You know,
That's right. That's
that's
right.
why he would come up with these apologies for no reason. He knew wrestling. He came up Minnesota too, but through Vergania. But yeah, I mean, he was ultimately, a corporate guy. Once he got up there in Turner, he was like, okay. I mean, he fit in perfectly in that in Turner. So
Yeah, and like I said on my show, you have to understand, when you do something correctly and someone gets heat, a heel gets heat, yeah, he's gonna have, it's like Slaughter all over again. You know how Sergeant Slaughter during the whole Gulf War had gotten
uh-huh.
heat because he was a Iraqi sympathizer, and
Hmm.
he got death threats, for heaven's sake,
Yeah,
because he was that Iraqi sympathizer and he
that's what he
was a
wanted.
threat
That's
to
what.
America, and everyone was
Hmm.
pro America. Woo hoo hoo.
It was
First
like
call for.
Roddy Piper in Mexico. I heard they had to be escorted out because of what he said.
Right. Jesse Ventura told me on Clubhouse that they actually, him and Adrian Adonis had to hide in an ambulance to get out of the arena, because they literally would not, they would just say, if people saw an ambulance, they wouldn't think heels were in there.
Yeah.
And they had so much heat that literally they had to get into an ambulance and drive them out of the arena, because they would not see heels in an ambulance, but people were waiting outside to beat the
Hmm.
crap out of Adrian Adonis and Jesse
Yeah.
Ventura.
Yeah. That's heat. Now, that is like, whoa, In Mexico and Puerto Rico, the toughest places to work if you're a wrestler. I
Yes.
mean, it's like,
In Puerto Rico, they would throw batteries. That's what
mm-hmm.
Dutch Mantel said.
Yep. If
The
you were a
second Dutch
heel,
Mantel.
it was like, especially in Puerto Rico.
Yep. You had to
Mm.
duck. Yeah, duck and dodge.
Yep. And it was who? I mean, it was like Hogan. Hogan was down there and he hated it. It was like, because they did a tour, the WWF did. And it was
Mhm.
like, and he tells a story about, he claims that he was told you gotta leave immediately or else we're gonna delete you. Of course, I don't know how true that was, but it's Hogan. But that he left immediately, went back to Miami or Florida or whatever, first flight out.
Yeah, he didn't like it. A lot of
Yeah,
people didn't like it in Puerto Rico.
yeah,
Yeah, it was its own acquired taste, I guess you could say.
yeah. Certain guys like working it, like Abdullah the Butcher and Bruiser Brody, but they
Well,
liked
and
it
then
down there.
that's where Brody met his end too. That's where
Yeah.
he was deleted.
Mm-hmm. By Invader One,
Mhm.
Jose Gonzalez. He's better known as his
Yes.
actual name, but
Yes. And they talked about that on Dark Side of the Ring too. They had a Dark Side of the Ring
mm-hmm.
episode. I don't think I watched that, at least not all of it. But from what Dutch said, yeah, they were basically doing a trial, or what they considered a trial, and they did it and didn't call anybody. You got the subpoenas like a week after the freaking
Mm-hmm.
trial and their decision.
Dutch
So
did Tony Montel. Let me try that again. Tony Atlas got his
yep.
subpoena
Mhm.
after the trial,
After the
which
trial.
mm,
And that, didn't they find him not guilty?
yes, because
Yes.
they thought, or at least the defense attorneys put it, other prosecutors did too. Everybody put it like that. Bruiser Brody, that was really him. That
Mhm.
he was dangerous. So Jose Gonzalez had to kill him or delete him. So
Yeah, he had to protect himself because
yeah,
Brody was a loose
danger.
cannon.
Yeah,
Hmm.
he was dangerous.
It was self-defense, I think
Yeah,
is what they said.
and the jury,
Self-defense.
and everybody bought it. And by the time they got the subpoena, first of all, it was in Spanish. They didn't know Spanish, and second of all, they got it
No
after the trial,
español.
anyways. Yeah, they got it afterwards anyway, so it was pointless.
No español.
hmm It was in because it was in. I think the trial was in San Juan, but they sent it in Spanish for some reason. So Jose Gonzalez was Carlos Colon's booker,
Get
and
out.
yeah, he was the booker. That's why when Jose Gonzalez saw him going to the bathroom, he was like, okay, because he thought he was getting a finish
Hmm.
because he was the booker. He didn't realize what was going to happen, even though I mean, if
Tell me
Carl,
honestly, Angel, do you think it was self-defense?
no,
You don't think it was self-defense?
no, I mean it was obviously because if you know the story back in the when Bruiser and Jose Gonzalez worked for Vince Senior, Bruiser beat the crap out of him, and he always swore that he would
Hey,
delete him
cookies.
one day.
You're right.
He
Okay.
he's he swore he would delete him one day. So he swore to, I think who heard it? Might have been Gorilla Monsoon. He told us to or somebody. He would delete him one day. I'm like, and then he did it. I mean, it took a long time, but eventually he had the opportunity. He took it.
I
So he
just
was.
saw a picture of Monsoon and Andy Kaufman on X.
Oh wow, I didn't see
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I oh, how can I put this? The Andy Kaufman thing, I was more for Andy Kaufman. I didn't like Jerry Lawler, and Jerry Lawler was the face.
He was babyface in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
hmm
I would see his stuff on the Comedy Central. It was documentaries they did about Andy Kaufman,
Yeah.
and some of those documentaries were freaking awesome. I mean, I've seen the behind the scenes. Lawler said he didn't even know what was going to happen until he got up and did it. So they were on the late night with what's his
David
name?
Letterman.
David
Letterman.
Letterman. Yeah.
When
Yeah,
he first started the show.
and this put them on the map.
Yeah. What
This
happened?
really made David Letterman a household name.
Yeah.
Lawler said he got up, he wasn't sure what he was going to do. He turned around and then he's like, "I'll just slap him," and that's what he
He did.
did. He's like, "I didn't even think about it. I just kind of was like, well, we need to do this because it's kind of boring. They were talking back and forth. We need to kind of spice this up." And he's like, "I'm not really sure what I was going to do. I just stood up and
It,
turned around and
I think it might have
bam."
might have been Letterman or one of the producers that told Lawler like this is kind of boring, so he had to do something.
Yeah.
So like
Yep.
so it's like okay, well he
I
got
think that
slapped.
was in the Tales of the Territories.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
Yep.
I think Lawler tells that story, and they're like, they loved it. I mean, they aired it. They came
Everybody
back from
went
commercial, uh
crazy.
and Kaufman was yelling and screaming and cussing
And
Lawler out. It was
cussing,
and it
threw
was on
coffee on
CBS, I
him.
think. Yeah, I
And
mean, it was.
Letterman just comes back with, "Well, you can say some of those things, but what you can't do is throw coffee."
Yeah.
That was his little comeback.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, and what was it? Jerry Jared, he admitted that Andy Kaufman, they had paid him with checks for
Mhm.
his appearances. He
He
never
never.
once
No.
cashed those checks. Nope. He never
Yeah.
once cashed those. In fact, he framed one, I think one of them or two of them. He
Yeah.
framed them.
When
Um,
Andy passed away, I think his mother or his wife, somebody found all the checks. He had them in a box or something. He never cashed any of them.
he never cashed any of them, and they had him framed.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
just
because
wanted to be a
Jerry's
part of wrestling. That's
yeah, he just wanted to be, and he really took that. I was telling my guy earlier, he really took that character seriously. Like he had a neck brace on,
mm-hmm.
and Jerry's like, yeah, 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 and the guy keeps going up and goes, Andy Kaufman wants a ambulance, and Jerry goes, we can't afford it,
Or an ambulance.
But he actually had a neck brace
Yeah, and
on when
then
he filmed Taxi. He had a
uh
neck brace on, when he went on any kind of show. I mean, he
ev-
took kayfabe seriously.
eventually, the producer of Taxi had said, either take it off or we're gonna fire you because we can't have you. We can't film these scenes like that. So
Right.
he took it off, but
Yeah, I mean, he did it because he was forced to,
Yeah.
but yeah, Andy Kaufman took that real seriously. And then
Hmm.
I did see the Jim Cornette. Yes, I was there. I photographed Andy, them carting him out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Andy told Jerry Jarrett, "I'll pay for the ambulance. Just
Yeah, I'll
call
pay
it."
for the ambulance, and that's
Now,
what.
okay.
And when Lawler was like, he's like, he'll pay for the ambulance. Okay, go get him one,
Go get
and
one. Shit.
go get him one if he's willing to pay for it.
Shit. I
But
mean.
he was from Hollywood, so he had
Hmm.
all that Hollywood money, and
Hmm.
that was really never heard of. But yeah, Andy Kaufman wanted to be a wrestler. If he could have been one full time, I think he definitely
Yeah.
would have.
Yeah, he would have because he obviously, and he was committed. He
He was
didn't
very
break
committed to
kayfabe.
that
Yeah.
role. That's
Yeah.
right. Committed to the role, definitely. He yeah, every time you
Andy.
saw him, he had that neck brace on, and I didn't know wrestling was this real and blah blah blah, and
Uh-huh.
he really played that character pretty
And
well.
Vince, I think Andy Kaufman approached Vince Senior initially with the
Yes, and
idea of
Vince Senior
appearing.
said no,
Mm.
but it was
No.
Jerry Jarrett that would
Hmm.
say yes.
I think he either called Jerry. No, somebody gave him Jerry Jarrett's number, and he's like, "Oh,
Yes.
call him. He might, he might accept this." He called Jerry Jarrett, like Andy Kaufman, really? He wants to come down here to my territory? Pff, fuck yeah! I mean, when
Fuck yeah,
he
get
come
him
next
a
week?
plane ticket.
He'll come next week because
I just
he
thought that was so awesome that
mm,
he never cashed a check because
mm,
wrestling was his passion.
yeah, he never wanted it paid for it. It was,
Nope.
and he got a shit ton of money too from
He-
Hollywood. So no reason for him to,
well, then, but Jerry paid him truly though. So
yeah.
whatever he did in Memphis with
Hmm.
Jerry Lawler, who I never liked, I didn't like him even when he was a heel commentator. Um, when he, had that spot with Jerry, and in the movie with Jim Carrey, if you ever seen that, the guy
Uh-huh.
comes up to him and says, "You guys can't work together anymore." And I'm like, "Wait, why?" They're like looking at each other, going, "Why? Why can't we work together anymore?" Because fans believed it, and they
Yeah.
were calling for Andy's, demise,
Yeah.
his deletion.
Uh-huh. Well, he wanted to do it in New York, but Vince Senior said no. He also fired Hogan for doing Rocky 3, so he was very traditional. It wasn't like he
Yep.
would have, but he did approach Vince Senior first, and he was like,
Vince
"No, we
Jr. fired Jesse for doing Predator.
yes,"
Yep.
because I think he wanted part of the pay, or Vince
And Jesse
Junior.
said, "Go screw yourself."
Yeah, he's like,
Ooh.
so he was out, and then Vince got the deal for Saturday Night's Main Event,
Right.
and
And
but they wanted
NBC,
Jesse. They wanted
right,
Jesse.
NBC said, "We don't want to do Saturday night's main event without Jesse Ventura." So we went,
Fuck.
"Jesse."
And Jesse tells the story. He signed. I think he signed before he signed with Vince. He signed a contract to do another movie. Was
Yes, it
it?
was an independent film called
Yeah.
Abraxas.
Yes, that's what he signed.
Yep.
Like, let me sign this before I go sign with Vince because he won't let me do it.
And Matt, here's how I figured this out. Here's how Matt and Angel, here's
Uh huh.
how I found Abraxas. So I was watching old pay-per-views with Jesse in them, and he has a shirt that said Abraxas on it. And so I looked it up
Uh.
on YouTube, and that's when I saw it for the first time. I was like, "Oh, this film is awesome. It's like the Terminator, but it's
Uh
not.
huh.
It's like a not a spoof, but it's more like a spin-off."
Yeah, it was. I think I've
Have you
seen.
seen
I never.
Abraxas?
Yeah, I've seen some of it. I've never really seen. I think Jesse
Okay.
wore the shirt on one of the Saturday Night Main Events or something.
I thought it was a pay-per-view.
Or it
It
could have
was
been. Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah.
and yeah, I
Yeah.
saw the shirt Abraxas because I told Tyrell. I actually talked to Tyrell also on uh
That's a good idea.
Clubhouse. Mhm.
Good idea, Bad. You should recommend that to Kit.
For movie night. Oh, Abraxas.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. And
yeah.
it's a shoot 'em up kind of spaceman Terminator kind of spin-off. And there is death and destruction, so Kit would definitely like
Yeah.
that. I liked it
Uh-huh.
because it was just funny to see Jesse in a kind of romantic role too. He was
Yeah.
sort of like he falls in love with the girl, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Um,
He's
and the girl falls in love with him, even though and actually Jim Belushi's in that movie too. He plays the principal. Yeah, Jim
uh-huh.
Belushi. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And Tyrell's in it too. That I was talking to Tyrell, and he's like, "Yeah, that was my first movie role. I was like 12 years old, and he's the kid that bullies the little kid You know, and
Oh,
and
okay.
and the kid pushes him through to the bathroom, so he takes a
Hmm.
bump in the bathroom. Um, so yeah, Tyrell was in the movie too.
I didn't know that. I saw that, but I didn't know it was him.
Yep,
But
that's Tyrell.
the first time I saw Tyrell was doing conspiracy theory. He did a season with his dad.
And he's so young in that one.
Yeah.
Not that he's old, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just saw the one about brain, not brain scanning. It's about people hear noises and voices in their head because there's towers around and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
causing them interference with their
I
brains.
seen that episode. I love that show. I seen nearly every episode. Back when it aired especially, it was like
I'm not going to say it could be possible because I know the CIA was doing a lot of psychic stuff. They were
mhm.
doing like tests with psychic abilities and psychic this and psychic that, and also telekinesis.
Yeah.
They were doing a lot of experiments and a lot of testing on that stuff. So I wouldn't doubt it. It's just, it's so hard to believe because I mean, if you hear voices, I mean,
A
it's
lot
one
of
thing if you. I know Unsolved Mysteries. They said that people would hear humming, like a
yeah, that
humming sound. You know that
yeah.
that I could get behind, but when you hear voices,
The the one episode that sticks out was the episode they did about the jab on conspiracy theories.
right? Which was Jesse had
Yeah.
mentioned this
Yeah.
in his one interview. I forget who it was with though, but he mentioned that they actually kept that in conspiracy theories because they were, this is going to happen, and then in 2020 it actually did
Alex
happen.
and people went back and watched it and clipped out Alex Jones's part in particular. And
Get
they were
out.
like we were like, "Wow, I mean, that he pretty much it predicted what would happen nearly over 12 years later."
Jesse interviewed him on his off the grid show,
Uh-huh.
Alex Jones, and I was just like,
Yeah.
really? You're gonna interview Alex Jones? But this is before Alex went on Jimmy's show, and I actually believe some of that stuff about Alex Jones. I'm sorry, Alex, but I'm
Yeah.
only human. And I actually believe some of that stuff about Alex Jones, and I feel like sick when he went on Jimmy's show and said, no, 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 this is not true, and this is true, and that is true, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh my.
I
I'm just
watched
like,
that
I take back
whole
everything bad I've ever said about Alex Jones.
I watched that whole 2.5 hour interview where basically Jimmy apologizes to him. He's like, I
Yep.
loved it, man. What are you talking about? I mean, it was
Yeah, like
great, you know?
I felt no ill will towards you. I'm like, oh my God, Alex Jones felt no ill will for Jimmy Dore spitting in on him.
Yeah, it was
And then he told that story about Willie Nelson, which was freaking
uh-huh.
hilarious. He's like, I mean, it had Willie's the cigar, I think, or no, it was the joint. They had rolled a
Yeah.
joint and they were taking hits. And he's like, are you going to not accept a joint from Willie Nelson? No, you're gonna suck on that thing every which way you can. Just like there's a song from Toby Keith, smoking weed with Willie. I think he
Mhm.
did that around the time he did Beer for My Horses.
Yeah. I, I mean that was great. I mean all that. I mean I watched that entire interview what he did. I was like, oh, well. I mean, yeah, they were obviously railroading Alex Jones. Is that the now
Yeah, that's horrible.
they did Alex Jones and now they're doing it to Trump. Like again, this is
Yep,
not a political show, but I could we can but now that was like a test run. They censored Alex Jones off the internet completely. Like
yep.
he barely was on Rumble. I think he started
And like I
using
said, when I tried to promote my one episode, which was WrestleMania 5, I had to take out everything about Trump or they would not let me promote it because even though it
yeah
was taped at or it was live at Trump Plaza 30
yeah
some years ago, and the Blue Blazer throws Mr. Perfect out in front of, I mean, Trump was sitting at ringside. So, I
yeah
mean, what was I
he was
supposed to say? Oh, right out in front of Trump is all I said. I didn't say
yeah
anything about Trump 2024, nothing. I didn't say vote for Trump. I didn't say any of that stuff, but I had to literally take out everything about Trump or I could
Trump.
not promote that video.
Trump was at ringside for 4 and 5 because four
Four
and
and
five was
five because
he
it
was
was
in
both
Trump Tower
at Trump
or
Plaza,
Trump
right?
Plaza, excuse me.
Yeah, at
Yeah,
Atlantic City. And
yeah.
what did they want me to do? Not say Trump Plaza? That's pretty much what they wanted me
When
to do.
when Macho Man won the world title that in 4, you could see Trump kind of doing this,
Yeah. And
because
Trump
he
was
was there.
very he loved the matches, but that he actually got to watch, and you can kind of see him talking to the guy beside him when
Hmm.
Mr. Perfect was there. Now I'm sure he didn't talk to Mr. Perfect or Mr.
Yeah.
Perfect didn't talk to him, but it's the general principle of I wasn't doing anything other than telling facts, and the facts was it was
Hmm.
at Trump Plaza in 1989, and Mr. Perfect was thrown out in front of Trump. He was right at
Yeah.
ringside. So
Well, they cut him out of Home Alone now when they re-air that on TV.
Yes,
So
they did. They
they
cut him out of Home
didn't.
Alone. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
because
Wow.
he had that one scene where he tells Macaulay Culkin where to where's the
Right,
front
right. It's
desk.
down the
Be-
hall.
because he owned the Plaza Hotel then.
Where they
He
filmed
owned the
that.
Plaza Hotel, which is why he allowed him to film it. But
Mhm.
he needed a scene in the movie. I mean, you know how Trump is. So that's
Yeah.
what they came up with, the director.
That's crazy. And really, see, here's the downfall. If you've heard any of Jesse's interviews lately, I think he's starting to get, and I hate to say this because I love Jesse Ventura, but I just think he's
Hmm.
starting to believe the same people he used to rail against.
Yeah.
His stance on the Ukrainian war and the Russian war, he's all in for. He thinks Putin woke up one day and just wanted to attack Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean,
And I really
I
hate to see that because, I mean, Jesse was the one who was against all that. And
yeah.
he was for the jab, and he said, "Well, masks work because my mom told me so." I'm like, "Jesse, your mom can be wrong.
Oh,
Someone
come
could have
on.
told her
Yeah,
that."
yeah, I don't know what's gotten into him
Yeah. I mean, that's
either
really
it's
sad to see. I would
yeah,
have voted for him like that if he would just get over those stances.
yeah.
And if he would have ran. If he would have ran, I would have voted for him hands down, no questions asked. There's also he talks about and I have several of his books, and now I'm just like, I don't even know if I want to read them now.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if it's the old age or it's like it's one of those things where I can't explain because if this 10 years ago he would have been against the Russia Ukraine thing and he would have been much more lockstep with like Jimmy Dore's positions or our positions. Now it's like he's basically just a shill for for the establishment, which is sad to
And
see.
that's really sad because he actually had the first impression of Bernie Sanders. We should have listened to him because he was spot on about Bernie Sanders.
Yeah,
He showed up to a rally for Bernie Sanders, and they treated him like he was something, below them. They stuck their nose up at him. And he said, "Okay, fine, bye." He
yeah,
actually caught that. He was right about Bernie Sanders the whole time. He
yeah.
would not support Bernie Sanders after that. And he was so right about Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, and even I heard about that. I was like, really, you treat Jesse like that? I mean, because
Really?
it's like
I
he's
mean,
the
this
one.
man did great in
Mm,
Minnesota. He
yeah,
actually helped poor people in Minnesota. And the only thing is, I didn't get to vote for him because one, I was 12 years old, and two, I
yeah,
lived in Pennsylvania. I didn't live
yeah.
in Minnesota. But I heard, and I told this to Jesse when I talked to him. There's a interview that I'm going to watch along to on my channel,
Hmm.
and it's Kurt's, like, the interviewer asked Kurt Hennig, "Did you vote for Jesse Ventura?" He said, "Yeah." "Who do you think gave him the idea?" That's just Kurt's,
Yeah,
funny side coming out.
yeah,
But yeah, he voted for Jesse Ventura. So I mean, it's so sad to see, the fall from grace, so to speak.
yeah.
I'm just
I don't
I was so
understand that.
brokenhearted after that.
Mhm.
When I saw that on Kit's show, I was like, "Man, my heart's completely broken."
I don't, especially with the jab. That one really surprised me. Because just then he did a conspiracy theory. He was like totally against it. He's like, yeah, this is coming, and we got to try to do everything we can to stop this. And now he's like completely like pro jab and pro masking. You're like, oh, I didn't even know that part. He said, oh, my mother said it worked. I was like, come on, man, it's your mother. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
she's
it's your
not a
mother. I mean, I understand you love your mom, and
yeah,
you want to believe everything, but my mom used to lie to me all the time about that about certain
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
So I was so brokenhearted over that. I was just like, "Oh,
yeah.
come on."
Yeah. Jesse was my role model in my youth. Never meet your heroes. Just ask Nick from RBN. He would never talk to a cornball again.
That's right, and that's because when
Hmm.
Jimmy Dore exposed Cornel West for what he truly
Yeah.
was, everyone blew up at Jimmy about it,
Yeah.
not Cornel West. And I was just like, "You people are insane. You expect Cornel West to come out here and say, 'Yeah, I'm gonna give you lip service, but I'm not gonna do a darn thing to help you.'" That's exactly what he said on Jimmy Dore. So don't
Yeah.
take it out on Jimmy Dore. It's Jimmy's show. If he wants to, give a hardball interview to RFK Jr. and to Cornel West, he has every right to do that. If you want to give a softball
Mhm.
interview to Cornel West and RFK Jr., then get your own stupid show. Don't be
Yeah.
blaming Jimmy Dore.
They love Jimmy Dore is like the one person they love to hate, and it
Yeah,
goes
I had
back
people in
to
Kids Chat go, "Well, I don't watch Jimmy anymore because he didn't give a softball interview to Cornel West." I was like, "Get your own stupid show and do it
yeah.
yourself."
That's absurd. It's like, and then like Cornell is like at first I went on a show combo couch like
Yeah, yeah,
eh,
yeah. With
back in the
pasta.
summer. Yeah, yeah, back in the summer, and I was like, oh, you just all vote for Cornell West. I was like, now I totally regret that. I mean, if he so yeah, so that was awful, But at the time, I was like, oh, he was asking, oh, RFK Jr. or Cornell West, who's better? I'm like, well, Cornell
Yeah.
West. Now either of them, they're like they both suck, but at the time, there was a debate, between
Well,
people in this space.
yeah, and they said he gave a softball interview to RFK Jr., but not Cornel West. I was like, maybe you and I weren't watching the same program. I know that Jimmy said he didn't want to talk about, Israel
Yeah,
Palestine because he didn't really know it. He didn't really know
which
much on that topic, but he actually did push back when RFK Jr. said, "Oh, blah 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 about this and Israel," and he's like, "We reported on that. No,
uh,
that's not true. It
it's
was
like they were
the opposite."
people were like, "Oh, he's just looking for an excuse not to push back against RFK." So he's like, "Oh, I don't know much about it." I'm like, "But he did. He covered it, and he did well, before." So he just said, "I didn't know about it legitimately." So at
Right.
the time, so I don't understand why people. Well, it's Jimmy. Of course, they're gonna criticize him. It's like,
Yeah, he took one on the chin, and he says this for everybody, for the jab. He believed in it just like the rest of us believed in it, and then when
I
he
did
started
too.
doing his own, I did too. I got the
Yeah,
first 2 jabs.
yeah. So did I.
And now I find out, well, I'm a ticking time bomb. I could go at any time because it was poison. What they
Hmm.
gave us was poison. And that's because we all did our own research and
Yeah.
found out, yeah, it was poison. They wanted to control us.
Yeah, but I do have to say this: the jabs are safe and effective, so make sure you take
Yes.
all of them.
Yes.
Okay.
Safe and
Hmm.
effective. Make sure you get your boosters,
Hmm.
everybody.
Yep, we have to say that, but
Just like Jimmy does every time
hmm
he's on. I watch him on Rumble. I don't watch him on YouTube anymore.
yeah,
I'm sick of YouTube. I'm sick of all the haters and the trolls and stuff.
yeah,
I'm starting to get that
this,
way about kits too, because there's people in there talking about, like, every time I come on, this person goes, "Jesus loves you." I'm like, fuck Jesus, all right? That's your male witch. Great, I'm glad you love him, but I don't have to. And this person does it because I literally will, because my name is Mrs. Witchy Perfect and I'm a witch,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I'm like, and I was talking to him and I said, "You know what? If you're insecure with your religion, that's on you. I'm
hmm
not insecure with my religion. I'm not sitting here saying Hecate this and Hecate that, and you should love
yeah.
Hecate." Okay. So I'm sorry that you're insecure with your religion, but that's not my problem.
YouTube is, I mean, and they nearly took away Kid's channel too. I mean, it took a long time for they to get him back his channel. So
No, Kurt would never be on Jimmy Dore Plantation. That was so stupid. I can't believe he said that.
and he
He,
doubled down on that and
he
tripled
doubled
down
down
too.
on it.
Yeah, he went on Tim Black's show, who gave him a softball interview,
Yeah,
and he
really, he
was
didn't push
talking
back on
about
anything, but then
no, and
Tim
he's
Black called Jimmy Dore, he called, Steph, he called her dizzy white, your dizzy, stupid wife or something like that.
yeah,
Um, it's just
t-
look, I think the thing is about wrestling and politics, yeah, they do kinda mix because
yeah,
Kane, or Glenn Jacobs, excuse me,
yeah,
is the mayor of something
eh,
in Tennessee. I
yeah,
forget the city,
Knoxville,
and is it near Knoxville?
yeah, he's a
So
mayor
they
of
do kinda
somewhere,
conjoin,
yeah,
and,
he
do
got
I think Kurt
reelected,
Hennig would be for RFK Jr.? Maybe before he was on Jimmy Dore's show, Do I think Kurt Hennig would like Cornell West? Absolutely not, especially when he
No,
pooped the bed on Jimmy's show.
no,
Um,
he just came across as an overeducated Princeton professor, which is what
right.
he is.
Which is what I kind of said to
Uh,
my man beforehand.
yeah,
This guy was he crapped the bed on Anderson Cooper's show. What made you think he was going to be, sharp and agile and he was going to say all the right things on Jimmy Dore's show when he couldn't even outdo Anderson Cooper?
yeah, he's like he's used to being on college campuses, and doing his philosophy classes, but he's not a politician, and he just completely now he's done. RBN's even like fuck him, like they did like an hour and a half video just owning him.
hmm
It was a long one. I haven't watched it yet, but it was like,
the when it goes to here's the thing. So in 2000, or I think it was just when Jesse won. No, I think it was like 99 or 2000. But Jesse had just become governor. And Hogan did this thing where he was, oh, I'm running for president. I'm like, of what, Hogan?
yeah, that's when he became
You
like he
remember
wanted
that when he
to
actually
one up
came out and he's
Jesse.
like,
Yeah,
all these political balloons are coming down. Oh,
yeah,
I'm going to be the nominee and everything. I'm going to be president. I'm like, president of what, Hogan? What are
yeah.
your policies? What do you stand for? Or
He wanted
it
to
was
one
probably
up.
just a big spoof.
Yeah, he wanted to one up Jesse. So like, oh yeah, I mean, he's the governor of Minnesota. I'm running for president. It's
I'm
like,
running for president. And then
yeah,
he'd come out with the boas and stuff. And I'm
yeah,
just
it's
like,
stupid.
it was kind of like he was spoofing on Jesse. And
Yeah,
I'm just like, Hogan, no one would vote for you. One, we don't know what your policies are. And two, no one would vote for you.
he's
They voted for
probably.
Jesse because Jesse made sense. And Jesse
Hmm.
was a progressive then.
And he had the debate. I mean, they let him in the debate like a week before, and he
Yep.
killed the Republican and Democrat. And that's why he became governor.
And
And ever
because
since
everyone
then,
loved what he said, because he was talking the sense, he was talking the third
yeah,
party way, not like the third party today.
yeah.
It's just so dumb.
And even ever since then, they haven't let a third party person or independent in the debate stage for any
Nope, they haven't.
either for president or for governor or whatever. I mean, it's not
That's very
happening.
true.
Senator.
Yep. And Jesse said before he left office, the Democrats and Republicans got together to screw the poor people.
Hmm.
They got in bed together just so that they could screw over poor people. Whereas they got mad at Jesse because Jesse wanted to tax the rich people in Minnesota, not
Yeah.
the poor people, the rich people. And they got
But
mad at him and got together. The
Hmm.
Republicans and Democrats are supposed to be, the Uni Party got together and literally did what they wanted and screwed up the budget anyway.
Yeah. They
that's what George
also.
Carlin always said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they also Jesse wanted to because they had a surplus in
Yep.
Minnesota, and Jesse wanted to give all the money back to the citizens because
To the
look,
to the poor people, right?
yeah, because he didn't need the
That
government
was
didn't
their
need the money.
money. It was
Yeah,
their money. And Jesse said this. He said it on Clubhouse a couple times. He's like, "Why would I take that money and spend it on other things when it was their money? They gave it to us."
yeah.
So
So
that we could get the roads done. So we got the roads done and we did this and we did that for them.
and
And then we gave it back.
it was leftover money, so it's like
It was leftover
so
money.
we gave it back, and again, Republicans and Democrats were not happy with that. I don't know what they wanted to do pork barrel spending as they usually do,
Right. They wanted to
and
spend it and put it in their own pockets and
yeah,
then spend it on themselves.
yeah,
And
which
Jesse didn't want to do that. And he said he only raised $300,000 for the governorship, where they had outspent him by twice that,
that's the
and he
thing,
still
but
won.
the television ads, especially today, I don't know how effective they are because not many people have cable anymore. Cable's like this people are cutting the cord left and right. I'm gonna cut the cord too one of these days. So I don't know. I'm gonna watch AEW, but I'll have to figure it out. Maybe on their YouTube clips or whatever. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to do that. It's I will watch it if I have to.
yeah.
Please don't make me do it.
Look, I mean, I do it mostly through Cornette. I mean, everybody follows AEW through him
That's
these
right.
days.
That's why I watched his show and I was like, come on, Cornette, let's go. Let's talk about this. Let's get some more stuff.
But every once in a while, I actually watch it, and it's like, oh, it's worse than it's bad. This is
It's
not good.
worse than we previous lot. Yeah.
Yeah, every week it gets worse somehow, and once Sting retires this week tomorrow night, and it's like, okay,
Yeah,
great. Then what?
that's what I said. I'm sorry. I tried to get on the Sting bandwagon back in the day. Sorry, can't do it. Cannot do it. Cannot
Yeah,
do
I'm
it.
not a fan. I mean, he's and there's a compilation on the internet on X or Twitter. Like good, thank you, Sting. Goodbye, Sting. Thank you for the memories. I'm like what memories?
It's
The
doing a
only
Patreon show, and he's doing that woman who shakes her behind. I'm like, come on, I can do what that chick can do. Stop it, kid.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say one last thing because I do have to go, but
Yeah, I
yeah, I
do
mean,
too. I got to get on his show.
yeah. So I'll just say this, the only thing I remember Sting for is Starcade '97 when he finally beat Hogan, but again, that
Right.
was botched. So yeah, that's the only thing
It was
no,
completely botched.
by
Actually,
Hogan.
I think we should let Matt have the last word. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wow. Sting was okay. The baseball bat and the changing his gimmick to the crow kind of character was probably what I remember him for. But yeah, it was nothing original. And in the early '80s, I watched WWF, not WCW. So
Hmm.
yeah, I wasn't really a fan. I think I don't know, did he rip off Bret Hart's move? It kind of seemed that way to me.
No, yeah.
No,
Brett talked
okay,
about
I
this.
thought so too, but no.
Yeah,
okay.
Brett talked about this,
Mhm.
that they interviewed him and he said no, they were looking for a submission move for him, and they said, "Oh, well, Sting's doing this. You could try and do kind of your own thing." And it turned out to be the same thing as the Scorpion, not the Scorpion Death Drop, but the
The Scorpion
Scorpion
Deathlock.
Death
Yeah,
Lock. Yes,
Hmm.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
crazy.
yeah. So I think that'll do it for this week. Hope you
Yep.
guys enjoyed. Please subscribe. Want to thank Matt for coming on too this week. And if you want to
Yes, thank
talk
you, Matt.
about your new show, you can real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt. We were kind of talking about it earlier, but I know you're stoked for it. And like I said, it is called Black Magic Talk. It will be
Hmm.
recorded on Monday, probably drop Tuesday. So for everyone, all you Wiccans, pagans out there, or whatever you are, even if you just are interested in knowing about Wicca, uh, you know,
Yeah, hit the like
um,
button.
yeah, hit the like button anyway. So go ahead, Matt. Just, say what you think about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've got a lot to say, so I think it'll be interesting. I'm going to try to take as neutral a stance as I possibly can, depending on what we talk about, I suppose. But I think it'll be really interesting. So
Right. Well, I think the first episode will be like, how did you come to your path? So, like, for me, how did I come into Wicca? For you, how did you start liking paganism or pagan? Or how did you become a pagan and worshiping the Norse gods? So, we're talking Thor, Loki, gosh, now I forgot her name.
Freya.
I'm sorry.
Freya?
Yeah, Freya, and the king, Odin.
Odin.
Odin. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I do know a couple of things there.
No.
But yeah, it would just be kind of like, how did you get to your path?
Okay.
And then I also would like to do some stuff about the moon phases. So like March 10th is a new moon. And that's big for us Wiccans. So
Hmm.
we could talk about, the moon phases, and I'll talk about what we do kind of to the moon. She's a big part of the moon is a big part of our rituals. And we my dad always pokes fun of me. He's like, "Oh, you sacrifice virgins." I'm like, "No."
Well, if you
That's
don't
the
know
myth.
anything,
That's the
yeah.
Hollywood coming out. Yeah.
Well, if you guys don't know anything about that, it'd be interesting to watch. I'll definitely check it out 'cause I don't know much about that, so I'll be interested to check
Right.
it out.
And like I
Well,
said, magic is neither black nor white. It was just a catchy title that Matt and I were just kind of throwing around ideas.
hmm
And magic is magic. It's neither black nor white. So magic can be done to help others. In fact, early witches were healers. They were doctors. They were nurses. They were people who cared for other people. So apothecaries is another word that I was thinking of. So don't be scared of the black magic word. I had someone say, "Well, I'm not watching if it's about black magic." I'm like, "Look, magic is neither black nor white. It is magic." Regardless of the catchy tune of Black Magic. And like I said, the theme song is Black Magic Woman.
Hmm.
So it was just a catchy tune that Matt and I were kind of throwing around, and
Okay.
it's just something that we will talk about magic itself, but I mean it's more just an idea or a state of mind.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's gonna sound interesting. It'll probably be up Tuesday in your channel. You said.
About to yeah, on
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
All right.
subscribe, comment, like on my Mrs. Witchy Perfect YouTube channel.
Links in
We
the
have 19
description.
subscribers. Yep. We have
Mhm.
19 subscribers right now. If it's something you're interested in, even if you just want to learn about it, trust me, I have a lot of material. I
Mhm.
actually have a teacher that, excuse me, I talked to and who's kind of helped me get back on my path, so to speak. And this is what I've always wanted to do. I've always been fascinated by magic, real
Okay.
and fake. I love fake magic too. But I just always been fascinated by magic, and finally, I just was like, fine, I'll just walk the path and do what I got to do.
Okay, and with that, I mean, I want to thank everyone for watching again. Please like, please subscribe to the channels, links in there, yeah. And I'll see you guys next week. We'll see you next week. Hopefully, with another guest or not, we'll be here by ourselves. Have a nice weekend, everybody.
Bye,
Peace.
guys.